ball collagen. Oh wait.
Welcome to tonight's episode of the podcast where we'll be discussing collagen.
For the boss.
For the testes.
So, do you want to get us going?
So they actually guess what your fears are.
My fears?
Yeah.
Okay, alright.
Let's see
Oh,
who's
What is-
accurate. Like there's one superficial one and then one deeper one.
Alright, my superficial one is easy. I think you, I don't know if you guys would. I think you definitely know. Or
She
Sean
said she
probably
knew.
knows. My superficial one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it on?
There's your mic.
Oh, you
Yeah.
all putting
Alright,
this on?
so
Yep, just clip it on your...
to this. That's not a joke. That's fine.
So I think my superficial fear is like dead, like dead things. You know, like I really don't like dead things. Like it disgusts me.
I feel like you said that to me before
Yeah,
too. I
like for
forgot.
example,
Damn.
I would like go to like a supermarket and I would see like dead fish lying there. I won't like go near. I won't touch it. I won't bring it home. I won't handle it because I just feel like it's like gross or or dirty. I think the reason is because when I was a kid, I remember a traumatizing event where we lived in this neighborhood. There was like a lot of stray cats, and like one day I went to like into the backyard, and I just saw like this fish that was just mauled, completely mauled and rotting by like a stray, and I saw that and it scared the crap out of me, and then like I think it just left the trauma, like left some trauma.
That
Yeah,
happened to my pet rabbit when I was a child. They got ripped apart and mauled.
Oh
Really?
my God.
By what?
So are you scared? Are you
I
scared?
don't know to this day. I left it outside overnight so it could like just be free. And then I came home and my dad's like, "Look what you did." And it was
Oh,
ripped
jeez.
apart and shredded.
And he blamed you?
Wait, what?
Not
How
nature?
you
Yeah.
did?
It was my fault, definitely. Like I left the rabbit outside. His name was Peanut.
Jeez.
I had to clean it up.
You had to clean it up?
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's the thing I can't do. That's the thing that would like terrify me.
No.
I would I would do anything except for that. Yeah. So that's my superficial fear.
Your complex fear?
I think the reason. Wait, sorry to interrupt. I think the reason why I remember that was your fear. I think you told me the story one time when we were in Hawaii and we saw like a dead bird, and I'm like, "Yo, Kevin, check it out," and you're like,
No, I'll
I'm
cross
good.
the road. Yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Yeah.
Sean guessed your complex fear too.
I did
Well,
too.
like,
I as well did.
Yes.
Oh, you guys all guessed?
All of them.
Did you guess?
Oh, I already know because we played this game before.
You don't know. Okay, all right. I think my complex fear is also like death, but I think the reason why I'm scared of it is not like it's not like the pain of it. I think it's like the pain that it'll inflict on I think my loved ones. Yeah, I think like
Yeah.
if I'm like gone, right? I can maybe imagine what that'll do to like my parents, right? I think particularly like my mom. And I just feel like that, and you, of course, and you. Yes. But I just feel like that pain that other people feel, like with me gone, to me is like intolerable. Yeah.
Wow.
Wait,
Yeah.
it's either that's like hyper empathetic or like extremely egotistical. It's like, yeah, it's like literally one or the other. It's like either like, oh, people are really gonna miss me, or like, wow, I feel really bad. Like they're really gonna be in pain.
it's like if it assuages your fears.
It's literally it's on this knife's edge of just.
If it makes you feel better, I'll try not to care if anything happens. Like, I'll just be like, oh, well, damn, like, we had a good run, but
Yeah.
what's done is done.
I think it's just some people, like I think it's like not everyone. It's not like I think, oh, the world is gonna miss me.
No, I'd be devastated, man. Damn.
Yeah. Because I remember one time, I was like talking to my parents, and I was just talking about like life, and my parents were like, well, life is whatever. I don't know. I think my mom was like, if you die, I might as well die. She kind of said something along those lines. And I was like, oh my
Yo, that's so
god.
much, are you an only child?
I'm an only child.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are you?
No.
Okay.
My mom would be like, two others.
My parents like that too, though, and I have two. I feel like some parents just like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure, like, you know, maybe
I
as a
think-
father you could.
Yeah, no, I
break it
think my
down.
mom actually might have said something similar to me too. I was an only child also.
Just like,
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but I never said any of that to my kids because, well, you know, that's how it goes, right? Your generational traumas, there's the ones that you're unknowingly passing on to your kids, and then there's the ones that you've recognized and you're like, I'm not doing this to my kids.
Yeah.
And that's probably, if anything, one of the things I would have been like, I'm going to isolate you from my feelings so that you don't ever have to be.
Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to ask you about that because I find it so interesting from a parent's perspective. Because like from a kid's perspective, you know how your parents messed you up. So I'm just curious, like as a parent, looking back, if your kids were to say how you messed them up,
Oh, dude, yeah, there's like,
what would you say?
there's lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's complex because I wasn't the only parent.
Yeah.
And a lot of the problems that my kids ended up with was a result of me and their mother fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things I did that I am the most ashamed of, probably the thing that I'm the most ashamed of as a father, was that when I was going through it with their mother, somehow I guess I got it into my head. Part of it was because my dad told me that I basically lost my kids anyway. Like I need to just let them go and let them live their lives because every time I show up in their lives, you know, I'm uprooting them, you know, and you know, making their lives more difficult. And because they live with their mother full time, they're going to take their mother's side and they're going to hate me. And they're like, you just need to let them go. And if they want to have a relationship with you when they're older, they can do that. And so between that advice and then also the advice of, which also, by the way, for context, I only knew my father for about 3 months out of my entire life. So he wasn't the one whose advice really meant a lot to me. But the other side of it was I recognized how much my kids meant to me and how deeply I was hurting because I couldn't be there with them, because there was this fight happening, because I was deliberately being separated from them and not allowed to see them. And I started worrying that maybe I was using them as an emotional crutch. Maybe this love that I had wasn't a love for them, maybe it was a love that I needed them more than, you know what I mean? I'm not quite saying that
Yeah,
right.
no, I follow.
yeah.
And so that scared me all the more. That if that's true, even though I don't know what the outcome could be of that, I know it's not good. It's not good to love your kids in that way. That's like an emotional incest kind of a situation. So in the fog of the confusion of that period of my life, I decided that what was happening was that their mother and I were on this two-man saw, and each one of us, by trying to pull our way, was basically cutting our kids in half. And there was nothing I could do except let go of my side of the saw. So I sat the kids down
That's a
one
crazy
night.
analogy.
That's a
And-
crazy.
Yeah,
analogy.
what?
Yeah. And so when I made the decision to move down here, because that was the other thing, there was circumstances beyond just family issues. Like my life was falling apart financially and I had to recover this somehow and pay a lot of child support and also figure out how to continue to live. So I decided to get the boat. I brought the boat down here and I lived on it, and I decided I'm just going to let go of the kids because the distance is a lot as it is, and I don't want them to hurt. I don't want them to be disrupted. And so I did. I sat them down and said, I'm sorry guys, listen, this is where it's at. I don't want to hurt you. I feel like I'm hurting you every time I come around. And I'll be around if you want to talk to me. I'll call, you can call me. I'll always be there to talk, but I'm not going to come around anymore. And I did that for a year. And every day for a year, I hated myself. I hated my life. I was in a beautiful place, but it was a fucking prison. And I couldn't escape it. And I went to a therapist to talk it out because I thought maybe I was the one that was crazy. I was the one. I brought all the emails between me and my ex, brought all the text message. We sat down and I paid him to help me go through this and what's going on here? Because at some point you question your own sanity when you get into a bad situation. And in the end, it was like, yeah, I mean, you're probably right, but is it right? And the person that straightened me out was actually my attorney, who was pretty shocked when he found out what I had done. And he said, you know, I have 2 kids of my own, and I could not imagine letting go like this. And I said, yeah, but do you hear what I'm telling you? Like, my presence in my kids' lives is hurting them. And he said, yeah, but you fight, you file the paperwork for the court, you go get the contempt things. And I said, yeah, I know that too. I tried that. This isn't my first option. This is my last option. I tried that, and my last attorney told me you're going to spend $40,000 and probably 4 years worth of time going to court, trying to get this stuff done, and through that process, your kids will despise you, because every time you've got to go to court, they've also got to go to court. So that means taking them out of school, and now they have to sit out there in the hallway, and they have to see their parents in the hallway. The judge has to talk to them. The attorneys have to be there. Like, it's a whole thing. And he was, I don't know, he was right and he wasn't right. You know, he was looking at it from the position of being a licensed attorney who already knows the law and the system. I don't. I'm not that position. But what I did agree with in the end was that being a parent means even when you're facing certain death, you still fight for your kids. You don't run away from that. Even if it means you hurt your kids to save your kids, you gotta hurt your kids. Like, there are hard decisions. There are no-win situations that you still have to deal with. And so I did. I went back to their mother and had to eat crow, because I didn't even tell her what was going on. I just said nothing and just walked away, ghosted everybody, except the kids, of course. And I had to say, you know, I was wrong, and I want to come back, and I want to have a relationship with the kids. She was receptive.
How old are your kids?
They were probably, I would say the oldest was probably 12 at that time. I'm guessing 12. And then, so probably like 12, 11, 9, and 7, thereabouts.
I mean, like, did you ever consult them in terms of how they felt about it?
Since then?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, many times, many times. I wanted them to understand, because one of the things that scared me the most during that time was that, what if they think that I don't want them? What if they think I'm just down here having a gay old time?
Right.
I couldn't live with that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I went back and we had to repair this relationship that I was responsible for really breaking, even though I wasn't trying to break it, you know, I was trying to save it from being destroyed. I still broke it. And they all have problems from that one specific thing that I did wrong. And I've talked to them, I've apologized to them. I mean, but apologies, they're just words. I mean, what can you say? Yeah. What can you even do? There's nothing I can say or do to fix any of this. And my oldest daughter, you know, we've talked about it. We've kind of touched into some of at least into the reality that there is a lot that needs to be unpacked, like probably in a therapist's office, to be able to help her cope with these things.
On a boat by a fire?
We do that sometimes, you know. Her and I, we would have our garage therapy sessions back in Pennsylvania. We'd be working on the truck, and she'd just come and sit, and we'd just talk about stuff, you know. But she's still pretty raw. She's got her own stuff in her life that she's trying to get through, you know. And it's like you can only take so much at one time, you know. So we'll do a little here, and the stuff that I've done wrong in her life isn't affecting her today. I mean, it's stuff that hurts, and it's stuff that she needs to deal with. But she's got stuff that's actively an issue today to deal with, you know. So I guess I didn't really probably answer the question specifically. What was the question exactly again? How is it from a parent's perspective?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, children are obviously able to identify how their parents hurt them, but
yeah.
You as a parent, do you think you're in tune with how you've hurt your children? Which it sounds like you have some
Somewhat.
hypothesis. It might not be. Yeah, like there's probably it's not the full picture.
Because I've heard them come to me a few times, and I'm afraid that they're afraid to talk to me, because I was the disciplinarian in the house, and even though we had a loving, close relationship during the time their mother and I were married, that was still my role. And so there was this natural fear of dad, and I didn't really get the opportunity to provide the loving time that you have during the teenage years. You know that.
Yeah.
Like my main time with them was during the rearing years, which happens usually like definitely before they're 10. You know. so now I think they're afraid to talk to me. But the times that they have begun to say things that are an issue, I'm like, I didn't even know. Like, it was just oblivious to me.
Yeah,
That wasn't even an issue. And also there's something to be said about the hardship of the life that you grow up in, right? It's all in context. You know, for me, my life was way fucking harder than theirs. Their mother's life was way fucking harder than theirs was. So together, despite our differences that we had together, we would both agree. You do it, Sean?
You get some water?
Cough it out,
I
man.
choked on my spit. I'm sorry.
Such a Sean thing to do on a podcast.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's so
That's all
awkward.
right.
Just water.
I'm good.
But yeah, what I was saying is their mother and I would definitely agree that we've provided, even at our worst, we've provided a better life for our kids than either one of us had growing up, which is a net gain. You know, if you look at it from generational improvement, you know, we did way better than our parents did for us. And our parents, I don't know if they did better or not for us.
True. Yeah.
But and that's what I hope for my kids. But that being said, you know, the things that they will come to me and say, you know, this is an issue, might be something that I look at and I'm like, wow. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have even understood it to be that impactful, because to me it's again, by my relation, like I grew up with a single mother and she was in and out of jail for various reasons. I was in and out of foster care. I basically grew up in foster care in my teen years, and it fucking sucked. And like I said, I got married at 17. So my kids they have a normal life. They don't have any of those issues. So yeah, I guess to your point, there are definitely things that I'm blind to, and I'm willing to listen to. I want to talk about for their sake. But it's tough, man. I mean, it's really better to not make the mistake at all in the first place than it is to try to clean up the mess. What do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good medical advice right there.
Good advice for life too.
So, Sean, can you hit us with a mid-break would you rather? Lighten the mood a bit.
Wait, I want to say something first. I think you were very selfless, like what you did at that moment, to completely let go of your kids. That's a very hard thing to do, and to do that takes a tremendous courage, and it's a very selfless act, and I admire you for doing it. And second of all, like even though there are things that can't be completely repaired or changed in the past, you are taking a lot of active steps to engage in the conversation with your kids, and you learned a lot about them, and you kept that open mind, and like, and you're still willing to learn more about that. So I think that in itself is beautiful.
Oh,
So
well, thank you. That's encouraging to hear.
yeah, I wish like my dad could do that,
Yeah.
but he's not at a place to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of thing I feel like my kids need to hear more of as well, is that, you know, if all you do is you just surround yourself with the things that you know, and you isolate from all the things that the other things going on in the world, like living in first world country problems. You know, if you go to a third world country, all of a sudden that puts your problems into a much better perspective globally, and it makes you more appreciative of even your problems, you know. But that's somewhat of a selfish desire for me. But yeah, thank you for that.
And you're also very aware of like the limitations that you have, and you keep on reflecting. So that's
Yeah, definitely leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of parents. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you keep that up, like you're only 39. You have a lifetime to go with your kids.
Yeah.
that's true too. I mean, as long as, like I said, so I guess for the listeners and also, because Kevin hadn't joined us, we were talking about our fears. You know, like you did the small one and then the deep one. And my deep fear was losing my relationship with my kids as they are adults. And then because of my life, being married at 17 was high school, and then my kids. That was my life. Everything was in that time. So by losing them now, it would hurt me now, the loss of that relationship, but then also it would take away, because then I would also be losing my memories of the past, because I wouldn't be able to look fondly on those without being hurt by today. So that's the thing. If I have my relationship, if I continue to have a healthy relationship with my kids in the future, which again, you know, at some point I had to do a bit of self-preservation exercise for myself and accept that my kids are adults. Almost all of them are adults now, and if they don't want to have a relationship with me, they don't have to, and I'm not going to force that on them. I want to have one, but if they don't, I'm not going to implode, because I think too many parents, they do that, because like I said, it's an extremely powerful feeling, and you build your life around your kids because in a way you have to, just because they're your kids, you got to take care of them. But it's not good to make them your foundation. That's not the appropriate order. Your foundation should be something else. It should be something that's you and yours, and they should be a major component, but it should never be on your kids. Like the idea that if you died, you know, if your child died, that you as the parent may as well also die. I understand that feeling very, very well. But I also understand that I still have a life, and I have to keep on living, even in the absence of this person that I love so much more than even my own life. It's a weird paradox. It really is. It really is. But to the point that no matter what happens with my kids, I hope I have the relationship, but I'm going to keep on moving. And my future is not going to be as glamorous, I guess, you know, as the love I had with my kids, but it's still going to be mine, something for me, you know.
Do you think your kids understand, like, truly where you're coming from when it comes to certain decisions?
Not at
that
all.
You've made?
Nope. They
No?
do. They have no way to even understand it at all. And I'm glad that they don't. I hope they never do, because that means they went through some shit to understand it. And I don't want that for them. I would rather sacrifice my emotional condition so that I could spare them for what they would have to go through to truly understand. I mean, maybe at some point through the course of life in many years, they can slowly learn it, maybe by hearing other people's stories and family stuff, and they'll understand better.
Yeah.
But, I mean, no, I know they don't understand, and I don't blame them for it. And also, that's their age, you know? Like, when you first come out of adolescence into young adulthood, you got a lot of shit to deal with, you know, like emotional unpacking of being a kid and your traumas, because we all have our own trauma. Like, trauma is just inherently built into us, whether that's one person's is way worse than another's, they still feel like traumas, right? So you unpack all that stuff, but you're still growing at the same time. Your frontal lobe's not even put together yet, you know?
It's a tough one to grow
It's a tough one. It takes time.
for us boys.
Yeah.
Next up, Sean Lee's giving us a
No, hold on, wait. I don't think Kevin ran through the questions that we already did.
Well, that's true.
I need to hear the full gauntlet.
Well, that's why we're doing your intermissions in between to mix up the content. So give us a nice would you rather.
I'll give one that I give a lot, and I think it's good because it like speaks to everyone's risk management. I've talked to Andrew about this already, but okay, simple. Would you rather play a game of blackjack right now to win $1 billion? So let's say like basically a coin flip, or just have 5 million, no strings attached, dropped in your pocket.
My answer?
Here, maybe
What?
me and Andrew can answer first.
Yeah, okay.
We would both play for the billion.
I would. So blackjack. The only stipulation is I don't know blackjack very well. So I did when we were talking rephrase it, and if it was a coin toss for $1 billion, I would do the coin toss.
I mean, yeah, blackjack is just like a little worse off. It's like 43%,
It's
I
like
think.
43%,
Optimal play
yeah.
takes up to like 50.
But I don't know how to play.
You
So
would, yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm not good either, or I don't really know how to play that. But if it's 43%, I would take blackjack. The expected
Yes,
value
thank
is
you.
430 million.
That's exactly what Andrew
Compared to
said.
5
That's also
million.
what I said when I first got asked this question. But I don't know. A lot of friends I have will go with stick with the mill, like the guaranteed money.
There's no
Biscuit
lo-
for the biscuit.
there's no loss. Yeah, like it's like you keep living your life if you, otherwise. But a half $1 billion, $1 billion, like,
Yeah.
Oh,
Lena,
that's
Ryan.
interesting. I would take the million.
the 5
5
million,
million?
5
The
million.
5 million.
Yeah, times that by
Oh,
5.
but you would,
No, no,
even
no,
if it was
5
1
million,
million, you would have
sorry.
taken it.
No, 5 million.
Okay,
If it's
yeah.
1 million, that's tough. But I know it's rationally, you should probably do the blackjack. But I think I just want that psychological peace of mind that I'm guaranteed something stable.
Yeah, no matter what, it's transformative. Like,
Yeah, I can
It's
do
really.
a lot
I mean,
with
like
5
losing
mil.
the 1 billion would be transformative in the sense that it would ruin you psychologically for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and also people are more as humans, we're more attuned to the losses. So.
that's true. Yeah,
And
that's
you,
true.
When even if you lose the game of blackjack, you'll suffer from it a lot more.
Fair.
Yeah, than just getting 5 mils and thinking that you could have gotten more. Have
Good
more.
answer. Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah, I would definitely take the 5 mil because I have lost so many games of chance.
Yeah.
I have. That is definitely
Just on
I would say
statistical
1 in 10
analysis.
I would win. So that's odds are in.
Even if it's a
forever.
coin flip.
Yeah.
Damn. That's
Let
tough.
me try it out. Who's got a coin?
It's funny.
You know-
because shortly after that, I played a random number generator on a 10% odd game, and I proceeded to lose way beyond expected value, 18, 19 times or something.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
so-
insane. I think Stanford or some institution did a study on heads and tails and which one is flipped more over $1 million flips, and it's heads actually came out as a 0.1%.
Because there's probably micro weights the
Yeah,
indent, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the micro weight actually impacted the probability of the flip.
All right,
Here we
this
go.
is for $1 billion.
All right, here
Sean,
we go.
you gotta pay up if this is a heads.
Actually, yeah.
No, I don't.
So
I looked about. Let's all do.
Who
it,
wants
let's
to? Who wants to do?
I'll go first. I see it's tails.
Okay.
Alright.
1B. Let's go, baby.
Heads.
Oh.
Now,
$0.
now you're flying to Sweden and you're
It's crazy that was no stakes, but I feel the devastation.
yeah.
Right?
Still, this is still
Henry feels
versus
so
you
bad.
could have had 5 mil versus a 5 mil. All right,
All right,
Dang,
there we
that
go.
feels
You
really
ready?
bad.
I'll hit the
Here we go.
tails.
Tails.
Tails. Look at
Oh.
Sean, you're an idiot. That was so easy.
How good did that feel for you?
Sean's like, hey, can I borrow 5 mil?
Yeah.
I'd actually like to change my answer.
Yeah.
I'm going for the 5 mil.
I'll do heads.
Tails.
Damn it.
Oh.
It's tough.
I'll split you half. I already have 5 mil.
Oh, you already have 5
Oh yeah, she
True.
took the 5
Yeah,
All
mil.
right,
did even
since,
flip the
since you did take the 5 mil, you still get to choose though.
Oh, heads.
You stick with your 5 mil.
Oh,
Okay.
see?
Here I
So
go.
only one person.
I
is
should have.
one-
I should have took the 5 mil.
I'll
Right,
go
Ryan,
this-
heads.
This is a good.
Shit.
Oh,
See?
That's
See?
how
That's what I'm talking about. I just lose a coin. I didn't even get a sign.
Yeah, you just in this experiment lost a quarter.
It's tails.
That's crazy. See, expected value, but only one person won the billion. So, lesson for
Damn,
life.
lesson on gambling. Everyone.
Probabilities just don't work.
Probability's a myth.
No, probability works. Like I said, I statistically continue to
That's
always
true.
lose.
That's true. All
I
right,
think
Sean.
I think a good follow question too is how low would you go before you if you do pick the 5 million, how high or how low until you pick, I guess the opposite. So
Oh.
what if it was 20 mil? Would you do 20 mil or 1B?
Yeah, 20 mil. Like you can do so much with 20 mil. Like that'd just be kind of stupid.
So it's like at how much do you break? Or like Lena, for you, like
how
how
low?
little would you like? How like 1 million? Would you still take the 1 million?
Yeah, I actually. think
500K.
so. It's better than nothing. You know?
$10.
If you just hand me $10 right now, why wouldn't I take it?
But-
like,
At some point,
But
you
it's
gotta.
like the clout of
Yeah.
going for it. Like
$10.
yeah,
you're-
no,
I can-
not.
I'll give you
okay,
$10
okay,
right now.
No, not for $10. Probably for like 100K.
That is, I think that is genuinely one of the lowest numbers I've heard. So like, I don't know, like for risk management, you do a good
she's
job.
a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may actually go better to go the other direction. So instead of making it 1 billion, which is a really hard figure for anyone of us rationally to grasp,
Oh, interesting.
maybe instead of that, maybe it's 100,000 versus 1,000.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Which I would go for the 100,000. I'd be like,
Oh, yeah, 1,000.
let's just
Right,
roll
right.
it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I like 1 bill because to me, like, 5 mil is obviously a big improvement for anyone, right? Like, that's like, you know, you can get a nice house, nice car, still invest and like be more or less set. But you're probably not stopping to work in today's economy if you're still young, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like 1 billion is like you're set, your kids are set, your friends might be set, you like live however you want. You know, it's completely like
I don't know. 1 billion is like the new 300 million. So it's
Yeah.
like, what can I get 2 mega yachts? No.
Yeah. No.
I gotta pay tax on it. Oh,
Just-
forget
yeah.
it. Yeah, you know what? Forget it. IRS crawling up my ass all the time. No.
I'd rather not take the money at all if you know it's being taxed.
Yeah.
All right.
That
That's
was
a good question.
That
Yeah,
was,
that
thank
was
you, Sean,
excellent.
for your.
Good contribution.
Yes. Kevin, we have some questions for you.
I'm ready.
So we started with the fears, and then
I think the next one was sexual fantasy.
Oh, I
involving
didn't even think about this one.
involving the
No,
men at
we're
this
fucking
table.
with you.
Oh.
We're fucking with
Oh,
you.
is it?
Don't, please,
was
no,
seriously
literally
thinking
no one
about
wants to hear that. No.
what's the second one?
I don't know.
Oh, you guys
remember
did,
what it
Second
was.
one
Was it 7
Where do you
years?
see yourself in 7 years? Where do you see yourself in 7 years?
where do I see myself in 7 years? 7 years. I would be what? 20, 35?
Yeah.
Wait, you're 28? No.
Yeah, he's 28.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No.
Stupid bit.
7 years. I think in 7 years. Oh. I think in 7 years, I see myself maybe living still in California with you.
Oh, he's a good guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
pass that test.
Yeah.
Unless you don't live in California, then I'm somewhere where you are. But I actually don't know. I feel like the biggest decision in the next few years actually comes down to where we're gonna go.
Mm.
Um,
We can be in California.
yeah, we could be California, but like where, right? I think, I think where we are is going to dictate a lot of the decisions that come after.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess like does
This
it?
was
Because
like,
like
this was a super.
does it actually change that
inconclusive
much? Because like
answer.
the careers would be still more or less the same, right?
Maybe.
And like, what about more big picture stuff? Like I don't know, number of kids or something hypothetically.
Number of kids. Honestly, I have not thought about that. I feel like if I do have kids,
Somebody
I think
has, though.
one would be fine.
What?
1 to 3. I wouldn't go more than 3 kids. Yeah.
Well, you don't want 3 though, because then you'll end up with a middle child. You don't want the middle child.
Mm.
Oh,
So 1,
And that's
2,
coming
or
from a
4.
parent.
is that a bad? Wait, how many kids?
1,
are
2, or
He is
4.
four.
Ooh,
One,
1,
two,
2,
or
or 4. I think
That's
2 is good.
legitimate.
Good enough.
Yeah.
And if
I
they're
know some
2, you
middle
got to make sure
children.
they're close enough together in age that they bond well. Otherwise, they're
Wait,
too
no,
spread.
you're pretty far apart from age with your brother.
No, but like you're referring to the fact that the 2 middle children at least have each other.
No,
right?
No, I was just saying, like if you only have 2 kids, that you would
Oh.
want the 2 kids close enough in age that they could bond together well. Because like if you have one kid that's 13 and one that was just born, like they're not gonna have. I mean, not that they won't bond; they would bond, but like they're not gonna go outside and play snowball fights together. definitely not in California.
Yeah, I think it's dependent. Like Andrew's saying, I have a brother, younger brother, 8 years old, and like we bond pretty well. Like we kind of like both like he kind of matures to like somewhere in between me and his age, and I like regress a bit, and it works out.
The good old regression.
We meet halfway.
It's not hard for me. Like the 7 year
Just hang
thing.
out, yeah.
It's just
Wait,
like I just go back to a previous stage in my life.
He's
Yeah.
8 years old now.
He's no.
Or
He's 8 years younger than me.
8 years younger. So you're.
No,
you're
we're
what?
talking about this thing where like for guys like we enter 7 year phases, but it's like mostly the same guy.
It's
Wait,
the
what?
same image. Yeah. Okay, so I'll explain
Yeah.
this one. So I had this idea that every 7 years you become a different version of yourself, like completely. It
Okay.
obviously takes 7 years for the transition to occur, but every 7 years you are a different version. So like the 7-year-old version of yourself is notably different than the 14-year-old version of yourself, and the 21-year-old version, and the 28-year-old version. Each one of them, right? And I brought this up because I came up with this idea as I was trying to understand women. And in my mind, I was imagining walking into a bar, and I see this woman there on the bar stool. And she looks over, and as she looks over, all of these different versions of herself that still exist within her also look over. So that I need to now, to successfully talk to this woman, I need to be able to speak to the 7-year-old version of her, the 14-year-old. So like the 7-year-old is a playful child, having fun, innocent, sweet. The 14-year-old is very insecure about herself and worried. And the 21-year-old wants to throw down and have fun, and the 28 is more refined, sophisticated, good conversation. But yet with guys, it's more like the 7-year-old version is pretty much the same as the 28-year-old version.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have a 7-year-old self inside.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, it's a sound,
Yeah.
it's a sound thing. The other interesting thing about that 7, I forgot. So if you look at it like I like to look at life in the terms of seasons, right? So if your life begins in the spring, and let's just say spring begins on March 15th for the sake of simplicity. Every month is 7 years. So you go around, and that'll get you to about 84 years old, exactly 84 years old, to do 12 months. So the month of March, 7 years, like not much happens in that 7 years. Like it's not until the end of March, in North America anyway, that spring starts to happen. Like the thaw really happens, maybe get some buds on the trees and whatever. And then April is 14. So like we're talking, I'm sorry, no. Like March 15, April 15, right? So then April 15 to May 15, that's your 14. What's interesting about the seasonal change is that that's also the time the flowers start to come out, right? Which correlates with puberty. But everything is not fully in bloom, right? It's getting there. And then you go May 15 to June 15. And that's like where you even start getting your first strawberries and stuff like it's just a good time. It's hot, the weather's hot, trees are all green, like green, not that light green.
In Canada, this is like when the first flowers are like.
I was gonna say, it feels like I was born in December.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to geographically place this.
But I like where you're at. Your place sounds
the
better.
concept is good.
So then, as you keep going, right, you go through the summer, and you do, so where are we at now? We're at 21 by the time you're hitting June 15. Your July 15 is 28. And just imagine yourself, what are you doing in summer? How do you view your seasonal trend at that point, midsummer? And then you go to 35, mid-August. And now for me, I'm heading into mid-September. And by mid-September, for me, I'm like, fuck. Like, summer is literally over now.
Winter's coming.
Winter is coming.
That's a great
But it's still
outlook on
great
aging.
weather. The weather's still pretty good. Some of my favorite times are in September because it's not too hot, it's not too cold. I'm not financially impoverished. I'm pretty set up, but my knees hurt. So it's like stuff's happening. And then you keep going, right? You keep going month to month to month. Eventually you get into the winter months and you're like, shit. Like this sucks. And then you start thinking about summer. Summer was a ways back, like it's back there. And then eventually, you get back to March. And if you're lucky enough to live old enough, I think the cycle repeats again, but on a different level, which is why I like to think, that there's a special bond between the very old and the very young, because they're going in the synchronicity, but on different planes, you know? They understand each other in a similar yet very different way, you know? Because if you think about like the 90-year-old grandma as she's baking cookies with the 7-year-old girl, like somehow they are friends. They're like the same sort of person. It's a beautiful thing. I love that number 7 and tying it in with the months and all that stuff.
I love that. In Chinese, there's a saying called lao xiao, which means old, small, like the elderly and the children, elderly and children. The older you get, the more like the child you are, which like is kind of like the cycle that you mentioned. Like we're kids and then we get educated and then we go through all of these experiences in life through learning through our jobs, our like relationships and everything. And then we get traumatized, then we heal, we learn to forgive, and then at the end of life, we just embrace what we have and that simplicity, which brings us back to like that childlike.
Right.
Yeah. So
It's beautiful.
it's all a cycle of life.
Le Xiao, Le Xiao, Le Xiao.
It's actually just twice, not 3 times. So.
It's like
don't make it
Candyman,
that long.
Candyman,
Oh,
Candyman.
yeah. I'll work on that.
Yeah. There's a circular kind of pattern that I feel like that life has. I can't explain it. But
If I go
feel
pee, will
there
this
is-
pick it up?
Maybe I can cut around it,
Okay.
but I won't.
That might make it easier.
You can leave
No,
it here.
but-
You can just leave it there. It's fine.
Okay. Oh shit.
You
What
want
else do
water
you guys
from-
talk about?
You want water from my backpack?
We
Thanks,
also
boss.
talked about 7 years, and then there was a question about
Favorite memory?
yes, favorite memory.
Favorite memory?
Yeah.
Sean talked about a favorite memory with you.
Oh
We
yeah.
caught the fish.
Oh no,
Well,
I
no.
just brought up like we went night fishing.
Night fish. Oh yeah. Wait. At the
But one of the like I guess I brought up my first favorite memory was like significant memories where like you're on your deathbed, you have to relive one last thing. Then it's like you want to see your loved ones, right? Like maybe my family, whatever. And then I brought up like memories that I could just like chill and like play through multiple times and like just sitting on the beach night fishing, chilling with people I like. It was a good time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that time we caught that puffer fish? Or not we caught that puffer fish, but that puffer fish just came on shore by someone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the old guys were
the-
fishing
Yeah.
it. They like worked at a restaurant too. Like
Yeah.
they were, like
Yeah.
caught it to eat it.
Yeah.
So.
I think my favorite memory, honestly, it also goes back to Hawaii.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think it's just. So actually, Ryan? I'm not sure you know, but Sean and I, we kind of got close during COVID when basically we went to Hawaii and like just kind of worked remotely from there.
That's
probably
cool.
for a few months. Yeah, and it was like such an interesting time because I feel like when you think of Hawaii, you just think of like a bunch of tourism, right? But when we went, it was completely empty.
Yeah.
Like Waikiki was completely empty.
I
The
think we should
beaches were
describe
empty.
the timing too. Like we didn't do it at an inappropriate time when like it was established that flying was bad. I think we kind of went like
Like right at the beginning,
right
they
when
were
they
like, yeah,
first
flying's
announced
okay.
it, and
Yeah.
we're not gonna work. Let's go to Hawaii and work from there.
Yeah.
So like we like went right at the bat, and then it was only after they started saying, "Oh, don't fly, like don't travel." And
Yeah,
we're like,
yeah.
"Oh crap."
It was weird because like we had to do like a 2-week strict quarantine, and when we look out the balcony, you can see like the hotels. Usually they're like have like lights, people, guests inside, but because of COVID, no one's there, and so like you can see the entire building's like empty, but like they have like a heart shape, like the rooms were lit up in a heart shaped pattern.
Huh.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool, but and I just remember like being there that day, thinking this is.
The first day.
This is not like one of that first week of quarantine.
Oh yeah, I was like, "This sucks." I'm like, "This is stupid."
No, I was like, this is like a crazy time to like the world is going through.
Oh yeah,
you know?
yeah. Because they also like banned going to the
Yeah.
beaches.
And
like,
then
the
and then I
first week.
remember we were in quarantine and then Trump got COVID and we were like, okay, this is done. We're like he's gonna die. He's the first world leader to get COVID. Yeah. I even made a bet about that. Remember? I was like, He's gone.
What were the stakes so that I guess like it would follow that you owe me now? So what was your favorite memory? You still
I think honestly, I just think that like that time, I felt like the world just kind of stopped.
yeah,
And-
I agree, yeah.
And in a way, I liked it. I felt like the pressure of life was
Yo.
kind of lifted.
Okay, when we're
Everyone
talking,
was also
we're,
like,
when we're talking
everyone
about
was
this today,
united too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It was everyone had one goal in mind.
Yeah.
I feel like we were talking earlier about like, oh, going back to Y or something, would it be the same? And I was like, if I went back now, it wouldn't be the same. Like it felt like a limbo phase where like I just like didn't think about anything and just like enjoyed life as it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
weird.
historic times.
Good times.
It's definitely a time that, well, obviously we all know it. It's the thing that we across the earth are now bound together by, which is funny. It's like it's more connected to us than using like BC and AD for our time representation. So now it's just like
before COVID.
it's before COVID and after COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's how we identify our time
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this world.
Did everyone here get it?
Yeah.
Like at some
Probably,
point?
I got it like twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Twice?
No
I
one
think
had
I
it.
got it earlier than the pandemic because I think it was November
Of
in
2019.
19 that
Whoa.
I got really fucking sick.
What were
Wait,
you
did
up
you
to
leave the
during
US
COVID?
though?
Like, how did you?
I
He
was
was
hosting
in
Chinese
Wuhan.
people.
Yeah, were you in Wuhan?
Like I had a lot of Chinese people that were staying on the boat.
Wait,
Because this
you-
is back
you
when I
had this
had
boat,
not
didn't
this one. It was the other one. I was
Oh.
hosting on the other one,
Zero.
and it was in not busy season, but it was fairly busy, and there was a lot of people coming from China. And actually, I remember I went on a date with this girl, and we stayed on one of the boats that had just gotten checked out, and I didn't get a chance to clean it yet. And she mentioned, just in joking, "Oh, I guess you didn't have Chinese guests on here, did you?" And I was like, "Yeah, had a group of 5 Chinese on this boat actually." But that was, I guess by that time it was March. It was just a few days before they announced, "Hey, by the way,
Oh,
we're
I
going
was
to
gonna
shut
say if that
it
was
down."
in November, that had
No, that wasn't
comment had
November.
nothing to do with COVID. It was
Yeah.
just
No,
like
no.
microaggression, not even
Yeah,
just
no, no, no.
aggression.
But it came to my mind because for whatever reason, I at least had a lot of Chinese customers for that however many months of time before all this went down.
I did hear
Which-
COVID started in Key West, so
Might have.
No, Seattle.
I'm-
No, what?
Yeah, imagine if Key West was the launch point for the US.
I mean, would that be unreasonable
was
though? Because I
Seattle, it
mean,
was
it's
Seattle.
so busy here. Miami and Key West are like the main places to go to when it's March. You know, like
Yeah.
where else are you going?
fair.
You know,
That's-
that's
Yeah,
travel.
that's interesting.
But I got so sick in November, man. It felt like I had cement in my lungs, and I was weak. I was just down. I have never been that sick, like with a chest something.
You saw a doctor, right?
Dude, I don't see
Yeah, I
doctors.
Yeah, I was
you-
gonna ask,
gone
how
over
do
this.
you like when you get sick like here? Like, what do you do?
I just, you know,
You just weather it?
just weather it. I don't really get sick. I mean, I haven't gotten sick since,
Challenge.
I think actually that last time. I mean, just like a cold, like I'll get a cold, but I haven't been bedridden since that time in November of 19. That was the last time I was actually sick. But if I were to get like debilitatingly sick, I would just call my buddy and Captain Dan, who brought you guys in. I'd just
Oh,
call
yeah.
him and be like, "Dude, you need to come deal with this because I can't. I'm out."
Captain Dan, if you ever hear this, you're a cool guy.
And if not him, I have other captains who can come and. Well, I mean, they don't have the licensure for the boat, but it is what it is. I mean, we would handle it. But as far as I am concerned, you know, once everybody's off the boat, yeah, I would just sit here and deal. That's actually a good point, though. How people who are isolated, you know, in just our society, that they don't have anyone. Literally, they don't have anyone. They don't have family. They don't have friends. They just live in a house by themselves. And when they get sick, or when anything happens, like it's actually like a quiet, vulnerable segment of society we don't really think about. Even if they just fall down the stairs and bust their leg or something, they can't do anything. Community is super important, and we're really losing touch with that fact when, you know, like I say now, you know, people don't even want to open the door for their Uber Eats driver. You know, we're just like, nope, I'm just here by myself.
Yeah. feel like in the old times, not old times, you know, maybe like a few decades ago.
Yeah, like
A
20
lot
years
of
ago.
like a lot of community was built around maybe like religion, like church,
Yeah.
right? And also, if you were born in a place, you probably would like stay around in that place for most of your life. You would know the people, you would know your neighbors, but now like everyone's like moving around,
Yeah.
and I feel like, at least to me, when I see a lot of my friends who moved to the U.S. from Canada, I feel like this is like one of the number one challenge that like they all kind of deal with, which is building community here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, having no school, like having not done school here. Maybe you just move here for a job.
Yeah.
Like there's no way for you to meet people. How do you meet people?
How do you meet people?
Wait, so I recently moved from Canada to Virginia. You moved to Sacramento. How's that been going?
Yeah, so like I think for me, well, I Lena there, and like Lena has like her group of like medical school friends.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, but like outside of Lena's friends.
That's tough, and I feel like that's still something I'm like trying to figure out. So,
Med students are such nerds. They just talk about it 24/7. It's tough.
Get together and just talk about the exam, talk about their rotations.
Brutal. You're triggering me, actually.
I apologize for all medical students.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, but have you made any friends in Virginia?
I joined some like intramural leagues, like sports leagues, but like that takes some time. Like you just get put on random people teams, so you have to find the right people and stuff. So nothing yet, no.
Yeah.
This actually ties into what we were talking. I have been talking to my guests almost every time we do these fireside talks. Is how easy it is that we have been able to get together, and I mean you guys are already friends, but I feel like now I've injected myself into maybe not close friends like you guys are, but a close enough connection that we could continue on into something else.
This is my second time seeing Kevin. This is my first time seeing you're not far off.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
there
met
you go.
Lena today.
Oh, well, okay. I guess I missed.
I met you here.
I mean, it seemed like you guys were a lot closer, so
I don't know
congratulations.
who the hell this guy is.
But you know, having social interactions like this, which are really, there's nothing else there. There is no activity necessarily that goes along with it. It's just we're just hanging out. We're hanging out and having a discussion, right?
Yeah.
And how to bring that into the mainland. It's easy here in Key West where hotel rates are super expensive anyway. It's spot on the water, which is cool because you can blend in. I mean, it's already $75 just to come out and watch the sunset on one of these tour boats. So you get a $75 value along with a very small bed to sleep in that you won't get arrested by the police for sleeping under a bush. But with that said, being on the water and being able to bring people together like this in sort of a captive audience works all the time. Almost every single time it works. But when you put this out on land, when you can walk out the door and go to a restaurant, you don't have to stay. How do you create a social experience that if you can't force the person into it, and then force is not the right word, I know, but it's like somehow you have to help them. You have to assist them over the initial hump of social anxiety, if it were, I'm not sure exactly what, but an apprehension to get to know someone else, right? Because it's definitely there.
Well, I feel like that's why everyone recommends you want to meet people, go join a hobby. So get over that hump and you're forced to talk.
You find this common thing, but then that limits you from who it is you meet. It's limiting to interest, right? Which is a good thing, I suppose, because you share a common thing. But that's what I love about this is it allows people, all kinds of people that would otherwise have no real reason to have met one another. And it almost always, except for the other night, it turns out excellent. And it's amazing to me how easy it happens. Like I was really scared when I had to first do a hosting of two different groups of people that never met each other before, because I had never done that before. And it was literally my professional job to make sure this worked. And I managed to, all I had to do was just say, "Hi, so what's your name? Where are you from?" "Oh yeah, that's okay, cool. How about you guys? Where are you from?" "Okay, yeah, where do you work? Where do you work?" "Oh, you have something in common here." And then they start to talk, and then, dude, it just catches and it goes. It's not hard, but we do it so little, it seems like this daunting task that it really isn't. You just need to keep the people there for 23 minutes, whatever the recipe is, and then they'll spontaneously combust into this social interaction and it'll sustain itself. But how do you do it? What is the recipe out on land versus here on shore? Because it's a real problem, especially as you mentioned, when you're moving away, you don't have your family there, you don't have your old friends that you went to school with and that's where you met them. You do have your work colleagues and you do have your college colleagues perhaps, but those are they don't usually work out that great.
I think, because this is also replicated in an area on land, which I've found is hostels.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling in general,
Yeah.
I think, widening it just from, the anomaly of this boat, but being in hostels or being around people with a similar interest of wanting to experience is a good way of doing that.
Yeah.
How you take that back to, work life and city life, it's very difficult. Because it takes two people who are completely open, and most of the time people are heads down.
Yeah, you need to have a similar need
Yeah.
to have that. That's why, if you look at cities like Singapore, where you have or even New York, where you have a lot of expats. Everybody who moves to that city is I'm looking for
interesting.
friends.
Yeah,
I want to meet people. So, yeah, you're always gonna find someone.
I wonder, is it enough? So when you go to a bar, that's the one place that you can count on that you could go and speak to somebody you have no idea who they are, and usually be accepted that's a socially acceptable place to do that.
Fair.
Can't do it in the grocery store. Can't do it at the car wash. There's literally nowhere else that it's okay to walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, how you doing? Where you work? What's your story? Tell me about yourself." Nobody wants to know or hear. But is it enough beyond the context of a place that you're getting liquored up? And I do understand the value of taking the edge off of that social anxiety with a couple of drinks. Sure, lubricate the social experience. But is it enough possibly to have a place that you could go for debates, not intense debates, I'm talking just conversation, in-depth conversation? Because I don't like to go to bars because I can't get that. Before long, everybody's several drinks in and they're not even coherent.
It generally kind of boils down to the same conversation any bar you go to.
Right. And I need a higher level of engagement from people. But what if you had that? I mean, do you think that would be enough to get people? Would you subscribe to that if you knew that there was a place out there that every night it was just little table conversations and you would be welcomed, it was established that you would come in and there's a conversation, here's the conversation over here, we're talking about this, here's what we have here, and there's a chair open, you're welcome to sit in there and just jump in.
I think in a parallel world where that was created and established and everyone was likely to use it, I would go. I just think that if you tried to make that now though, I don't know how effective it would be. Because I guess people are used to things running a certain way.
Yeah. Anytime you start something new, there's the 10% that adopt it initially, right? And they'll adopt about anything. And then a little more take it. And it takes a long time for that critical mass to be reached where then everybody jumps in, right?
I think there used to be more things like that, community spaces, get-togethers. Now it feels like you have to pay for everything. I know people who still go play basketball and that's kind of a communal place to talk and have informal discussion. It's still, I guess, around ball, but for example, you could meet someone and just have a regular discussion there. But now it's there aren't any community spaces anymore. You pay to go anywhere.
Well, I don't think people would be averse to paying a nominal amount. I mean, I would pay. I mean, if it was $5-10, that's nothing. That's totally fine. And I don't mind paying for my drinks. There should be some sort of refreshments or hors d'oeuvres or whatever. That's what we're doing here even. We've got our drinks and our snack. Well, nobody has any snacks right now, right?
There's snacks?
I have half a Cuban left.
Nice.
There's no snacks.
Disappointed.
I don't know. I keep thinking about that. That feels like one of my life's callings is to find a way to make this happen, because it's not just friendships. For me personally, there's it's hard for me to find a girl. I'm older than. Obviously older than you guys, and as you get older, your opportunities to find someone who's single become smaller and smaller. And then of that small group that is even single, do you get along with each other based on and you list all of the different categories of information you
Yeah.
can list and your value sets and all of that stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's several of them out there, but how do I find them? I'm not going to find them on Tinder. And if it's not going to be like that, then how is it going to be? They're not going to swim up to the back of the boat. What do I do?
That'd be the dream.
That'd be crazy.
Maybe they will. But
So we can't expect that tonight.
I mean, anything's possible, but it's exceedingly unlikely. So with that being said, you know, I do feel like even if I was younger, still we have a very poor quality of courtship in our society. I don't even know what to describe it as. I mean, I don't need to. You guys know what it is.
I blame technology.
Transactional.
And I think there's a very large part of it is that no one has an opportunity to get to know each other outside of the confines of a romantic expectation. Like if you lead off with that expectation, that puts an
Yeah, that's a
undue
good
amount
point.
of burden and pressure on your fledgling relationship.
Right.
It should be better, or I would think it would be better, to be able to get to know a person without any romantic intentions. I mean, there's always going to be the sexual tensions and stuff that exists between male and female, fine. Or male and male, or whatever your preference is, doesn't matter. But if you could sit around a table regularly, like say you had your local thing, right? And you get together and you're meeting people. And then you meet some people, you hear what they have to say, and what they have to say is engaging. You like it, you know, and then you just start to talk more. You peel off, you branch off from the main table of conversation. And you're like, hey, you know, you said this thing about this other thing. Like, let's talk more about that. What do you think about this? And then organically, it just flows and builds into a deeper relationship. There's something there, I think.
I feel
I just don't know how to get into it.
I agree, but I imagine that's like how bars and then even clubs have kind of transformed. Is like, I'm sure, you know, traditionally, a long time ago, before the mass consumption of alcohol, it was talking around a fire, right? And then people were like, wait, this is way easier and way more interesting with alcohol. And what if we have a ton of alcohol? And then there's some music in the background, that's nice. What if we really blast that music and then we dance? Like, I think there's just this evolution
Yeah.
of
What
social.
Capitalize on it.
Yeah.
You
And
know what? That's it. You're absolutely right. It's a capitalization of the social scene.
Yeah.
Because that does make more money. Drunk rowdies make a lot more money for you than the few people that are going to have like one bottle of wine for the entire night. You know?
So it's like more stimulating, less stressful. Whereas for a lot of people, going into like a more sober environment to have conversations would be like that. Just
Or maybe it's an untapped market. You know,
Maybe,
maybe
yeah.
just nobody realizes that there is a large demand for this.
yeah,
And it's probably a
growing,
larger
too,
demand than the
with-
ones that just want to go get shit faced and throw down.
Yeah.
Or maybe you use both. Maybe you go have your normal conversations between 8 and 10, and then from 10 till 2, you go to the bars, the deep, and you throw down deep.
Do you think this has to happen like in person, or do you think it could like happen in a virtual setting?
Don't we see this in a virtual setting already?
That's what I'm
Like
saying.
on
yeah.
Reddit?
Yeah.
But is it working
Yeah.
on all these forums?
But I think that's why it's like
Reddit-
not working in
I think
I
it
don't
does
think
work
Reddit's a good.
digitally.
I don't think Reddit's a good example. Like that's
Or like-
anonymous.
I think like video
Or-
game
or
communities
like
is an
games.
example.
Or
I was gonna say
games.
video
I think
games,
Video games
yeah.
are a huge one. Like I know like a lot of like kids these days. They're like, my best friend is someone I met on the internet playing this game.
That
you
happens
know?
so much.
It's
yeah.
so often now, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to Germany to meet up with them." Never.
It works.
Like,
It works.
It works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that could happen that way.
Yeah.
I mean, although I do worry that if you limit this physical interaction, you'll become unfamiliar with it, and then it becomes so uncomfortable. Like the thing that pops in my head is the South Park episode where Shelly has her online boyfriend, and then they happen to meet, like they were in love with each other, and then they meet, and they're like, oh hey. And then they just pretty much just like separate, and then they're in love with each other again as soon as there's a
It's like
distance.
grade 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like MSN.
But you know, there's a lot to it too in the exercise of preparing yourself. You know, if all you got is a headset on, you can be sitting there in your underwear and, you know, not shaven like me and just a mess, and it doesn't matter. But if you're gonna go meet someone in person, you got to clean yourself up. Like there's good exercise habits.
But there's also a silver lining to that too. Like a lot of people now are becoming friends with people without purely based off their personality, not the way
Yeah.
they look, the way they dress.
And it eliminates like the social pressure of like, I don't know, behaving in public.
Yeah.
It does, but that's what I'm saying. Like, too much of anything is a bad
Yeah.
thing. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I think it's a great thing. It has very much has great bones to it, especially in like rural areas where my kids live. I don't know how many people there I would even want to meet in person at all.
Yeah.
So the nearest people I could probably go meet would be in Pittsburgh, which is 90 miles away. I mean, I'm not driving an hour and a half every day to go hang out at a little talk table, you know? Headset,
Yeah.
you know, that would be different. But maybe you go once a month and you meet some people and then you hang out online,
Yeah.
or just randomly meet people online too. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
I think we can all at least agree that there's a problem socially in the way we were able to connect with new people, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
That's
like,
a-
if
that's
I
a
moved,
good
If I moved to a new city, like, I think I'd be paralyzed. Actually, yeah, I don't know. It's tough nowadays.
The controversial opinion I have is I think the word social is like a little different from kind of how it used to be defined. I feel
What
like
do you mean,
maybe
like when someone is social, or
like
when you
like to,
socialize?
for example, like a social setting, right? When I think about like what is a social setting, I think of like maybe a bar, right? Like a physical space. But I feel like more and more in these days, a social setting is not just a physical space. It's like a virtual space is also like a social setting. And in fact, I think that is actually becoming more relevant because you as a person, you can engage with anyone in the world, right? And so it's not constricted by your like proximity. And so you're able to like literally connect with anybody who is similar in interest. And what's crazy is you can also engage with this person without a lot of the physical things. Like for example, you don't have to be afraid of maybe your appearance, right? If you're in a virtual setting, all you have to do is like, okay, I just have to impress you with my humor or my personality. I don't have to impress you with my looks or how I dress. And so it's like,
Do you like sign up to Metaverse or something?
Yeah, like, why are you pushing
I'm
meta
just
so
saying,
hard,
you know,
dude?
like I think a social setting is different these days.
I hear you.
I'm like, I feel behind because I still kind of think about social settings in a very rigid way, which is a physical space maybe around a fire.
Well,
Right,
okay,
a bar.
but to what end are we discussing this virtual setting? I mean, you're right on that point for sure, and there are benefits to that. Are we talking though people you do not intend to meet, that these will just simply be virtual relationships? Because inevitably, if you do meet up, like you have an image in your head of what this person looks like based on what little you know, right? And then you will meet them, and there will be this shocking realization, one way or the other, positive or negative, doesn't really matter. It will be shocking and jarring because it will be very different than the construct you've created for yourself. And is that, I mean, it's not insurmountable. I don't think it's insurmountable. But if it were to be in the context of a romantic relationship, which the ultimate goal is to have a physical relationship, then that seems that it would potentially be counterproductive. You may end up wasting time because the physical component is a pretty major component a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time it does become an issue.
I have heard stories of like people meeting over like a video game and then like actually developing intimate, like, or by discussing intimate things, I guess, they actually do start to date online, and then they do meet and it works out.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
it can
really
happen
cool.
for sure.
So I guess yeah, it's not impossible. but,
Anything
like,
can happen.
I don't have the context to like understand those feelings or like understand how one would like transform into that. I just,
But
like, I don't
the
get it.
the other side is just like a friendship, like a bromance, if you will.
Yeah.
And I would like that too, you know. I mean, I guess my number one preference would be to have a female partner that I could share my life with and travel with. My secondary would be I have a bro that we get on great and we're gonna go see the world together and we're just gonna have a great time, you know. But if I meet a guy online and we have great conversations and we do awesome stuff, I mean, whether that's playing games or whatever, it doesn't matter. do you imagine in that space that if he lives in Sacramento, we'll say, and I'm here in Key West, that it could ever become a point where proximity does matter? Like maybe you want to be more active together. You find a place and you move there. And how does that change the world that we live in? Maybe not in this generation, maybe in future generations, where things like the metaverse, if it will that desire drive technology to become a more habitable environment for society? Because right now we don't have one. It doesn't exist. But we do recognize the value of being able to meet more ideal people, partners, we'll call it, platonic or otherwise, doesn't matter, better people. But we just don't have a place to do it. And is that a commercial opportunity? Is this what Mark Zuckerberg is looking at?
I was going to say, yeah, Mark Zuckerberg is years ahead on that. Good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I have interest in the metaverse thing. I just feel like we're just not there. We're not even close to being there.
Yeah.
We're
Like,
playing.
we're not there, and also, like, I guess, like, maybe I'm too old or, like, a boomer, but, like, I just, like, I can't fathom, like, that physical element going away fully. Maybe, I don't know, I think that's just me, but, like, because I do know people that do fully maintain and, like, have digital relationships, but, like, for me, it's, like to be there physically, I guess.
Well, definitely, there's a physical thing, but that's what's nice about the travel. When travel becomes so convenient, and again, if you, let's just say numerically, right? If 35% of the population had great relationships remotely, virtually, then that means they would be motivated to do more traveling, right? So that would increase flights, presumably. And so you would have an increase in that, which should correlate to lower prices to make it easier. And as the generations move on and they view the happiness being had by these others and they attempt it themselves, and then that continues to grow, like what I was saying, only the 10% adopted in the beginning, and then it has to, if it's going to be successful, it will organically grow and grow and grow into the point that it reaches that critical mass. And I guess ultimately my question is, to piggyback on the where do you see yourself in 7 years, maybe where do we see ourselves in 20 years? As technology grows, society's problems become more motivating forces. Because it's, again, it's sort of just been neglected all this while. We all can sit here and agree this is a problem. But it's not such a problem that anyone has identified it as an opportunity. At least I don't think anyone has.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I would, like, attempts.
I would hesitate to think that, like, the social setting, like, it's probably more opportunistic than it ever has been before, right? So it's like you can frame it as a problem today, but maybe it's just a problem of, like, those individuals not adapting either, right? Like, there is plenty of opportunity, whether it's classic, right, through sports and community volunteering, or if it's more futuristic through VR and video games.
Yeah.
Or drinking. There's so many
Like,
opportunities.
in a way, there's
out there.
even more opportunity, right? Like,
Yeah. So I feel
so
like
are you going to take advantage of it?
it's maybe that growth to change is painful or awkward for people.
Is
It
it
is
true that there are
painful,
more
yeah.
opportunities, or is it true that there are less? Because like you said about religion, if you go back to the times where we had pretty much everybody going to church on Sundays, we all were forced to go meet somewhere, right? And if you think about 40 years ago, when block parties were a pretty commonplace thing to do, and you knew your neighbors, and your families all knew each other, and you got together with people who were just your neighbors. I kind of want, and this is the hard thing, as you grow, and what's commonplace and familiar to you is the strange thing for the generation before you,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we have more opportunities now, or we have more ability, but less opportunity. Because we could go do these things, but we are still having to go do them with people we don't know, which is the hurdle.
Yeah.
I have some family kind of friends that they're like a little younger, maybe just started college, like in their early 20s, and some of them I find really interesting. I don't know how they do it, but they have these relationships that they build online. In fact, most of their relationships are from online, especially like the ones that are really into like gaming or like Roblox.
Mhm.
And I'm like, and I feel like those relationships to them seem more, almost like more real
Mhm.
than the relationships that they have with physical people at school. And these were and those virtual relationships are like with like maybe random people from across the country or from like another country.
Cause like yeah, I feel like it's like everything's like stripped away, right? Like there's almost nothing except you directly communicating with the other person.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
when you do that, that opens up the question to what about when AI is truly just your friend,
Yeah.
and you don't even need people anymore. The AI can be a better
dream.
friend to you than any person on this earth because it learns you and adapts to you and completely sacrifices itself because it doesn't even have a self to sacrifice in the first place. It doesn't matter. That scares me. That's actually one of my big fears, is because humanity is toxic by nature. And it's only through us, coupling with other humans, or not just coupling, but I mean like just being together one another, steel sharpening steel and working, and it's an irritating process for everyone involved, but we become more selfless the more we understand that there's others around us. But if we remove that human to human element, whether that's deliberately or unintentionally, what will we become if left to our own devices? To be spoiled, as it were, will we become the spoiled human race by technology?
That's interesting.
That's scary.
Yeah, like in a VR world where like anyone's an avatar and it's like believable, but like you don't know if they're AI or not because AI
be
is just
so
so
fun, though.
perfected.
They should make a movie after that.
And then like the AI is actually just cool as hell.
Yeah, they could be anything. They could be cool. They could be like annoying.
Yeah,
They
the
could be a troll.
spammers. Yeah, like the trolls. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you literally can't trust anyone you meet online because you're like, yo, I actually don't know. And then you're like, wait, it doesn't matter. You're sick.
Yeah.
It's the Matrix.
Yeah,
It is the
at that
Matrix.
point. At that point.
Like,
Yeah.
Damn.
That's true.
Such a visionary film.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, no, but anyways, I was trying to say, like, when I was a kid, I felt like all my relationships were in person. They were like on the playground,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I had a single like
Nobody goes to
virtual
the
friend.
playground anymore.
Well, I
man.
Yeah.
think Ryan brought up a good point. Like, no, there was like this, like our generation, like born in '97, we got taken over by tech. Like, we had our elementary school days with nothing,
Yeah,
and then social media hit when we were in like grade 6.
yeah.
So we're saying we're like disadvantaged, or
Wait, what do you mean by taking over?
Like smartphones hit the markets, social
Yeah.
media boomed, and everything changed.
yeah,
right?
like kids born after that are socially different than us.
'Cause they
Yeah,
didn't have
they're
any
very
physical.
different, because I feel like we got taken over in terms of like the devices, in terms of like
The accessibility.
like the accessibility, like the computer got like the internet, right? Like the internet was there, so instant messaging was great. But a lot of the instant messaging that we were doing was just simply between our own like close networks,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now it's like these games and these platforms have
Yeah,
come.
multiplying it.
Yeah, and like it's like you could just go and play games with people like anywhere. And I don't think at least for me, I've never had that opportunity to do that with like the tools I had.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So, like, you're as a child, when you're developing and your social skills and stuff, a lot of that is already done and formed by the time you're like 5 years old, and all the rest of it on top is just it's direction of the tool set that you already acclimated to. So, like you're saying, you grew up initially without any of this tech, and then once your social skills were established, then that stuff was added in. But
Yeah.
I don't know my daughter. She's 16 now. I wouldn't say that she is quite there, but it's definitely in her generation. It's Generation Z that grew up with it full time, all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They had the iPad in the stroller with them. This is the thing they were learning to do.
Yeah.
And that's another scary thing. Jesus, I'm feeling old saying about all this stuff I'm scared of.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
that's a
scared of
very old thing.
technology.
I'm scared of
VR.
but it does. It's unsettling to see, because we don't we don't fucking know what this untested technology is going to do to our species. Just like the Romans had no idea that the lead that they were beating into pipes for drinking water was going to create a problem for them until it created a problem for them.
Yeah.
I feel like we have different layers of this human connectiveness that we're talking about here, like with the virtual world and the physical world. Like for like just the 3 layers that I'm seeing in this conversation, like the first layer is to fulfill that basic need of like loneliness or needing to connect with someone of similar interests, like through a video game, like the college students that you mentioned, and feeling that your interest is being invested in by someone else and feeling that human connection. So that's like the first layer I see. And then the other layer is more of what Ryan is talking about, like that level of getting together and sharing our experiences through life and connecting through these experiences, and also like vulnerabilities of like the human nature. And that's a more profound connectiveness that is more of like humanity level, and that's what makes us human. And internet, I feel like, serves the first layer, which is like the feeling of needing a company and needing to not feel alone, feeling that you have a similar interest as someone else in the world. However, it doesn't serve that level of humanity where the internet could, in the future, AI serve the evil sides of human, or not evil sides, like the egos of human, basically trying to feed what we want to hear, what is in our minds. And that's really dangerous, and that prevents us from seeing and connecting based on our humanities. And so
What if we had one generation that was just fucked up? Like one entire generation of humans that were, like, it was too late. We had no idea until it was just clearly too late. Sort of like apocalyptic.
But what
Like
do you
in
mean,
what
like,
way?
like they were
Yeah.
gonna die, or like?
Like they were so socially messed up by technology. Like what we were saying, they were spoiled. They were spoiled by technology to the degree that they could not function human to human. They could only function human to technology.
It's like Wall-E.
We'd probably have like a boom. There'd probably be a boom in technology then. Like if that was their only channel, then that would just see further investment.
But
Like-
how would that see, this is what I wonder about, is if that were to be the case, because think about how much progress is still made because of human to human connections, right?
Yeah.
So if we had one generation that come up, one raised, spoiled, ruined, there would still be 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 generations of functional adult humans to carry on the project. But by the time they realized, wait a minute, these people who are supposed to rise up and run the companies they literally, not figuratively, they will not talk to one another. They cannot talk to one another. So how can they coordinate to keep humanity afloat? You know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you're trying to say, but I just find it difficult to imagine a world where that happens, because I think in general, like, unless it was more productive to not communicate with other humans, there would still be humans trying to work with humans if it was like efficient for production.
Advantageous,
Like,
yeah.
like if like it helps them reproduce or like make money or whatever, like whatever
They'll
the form
learn.
of production is, like they'll learn to do it.
So reproduction, for example, people don't have sex to reproduce. Very few people have sex to reproduce. They have sex to fulfill an urge.
Right.
And so in that, if technology can fulfill the urge without the risks of the reproduction, which no one wants in the first place, then that's one big motivating factor. And not just in the process of reproduction, but literally in the process of like all of the rest.
Right.
You get the car for the purposes of getting the girl. You get the big house for the purposes of getting the girl. The girl worries about her appearance for the sake of getting taken care of. Like these things are so connected to the function, just the basic function of having sex.
But I'm saying if that was the case, I still think someone would capitalize on it. Like, like as long as like reproducing is considered production or like productive to society, like someone capitalize it on and make like, oh, like I don't know, maybe a bot that like collects your sperm and like deposits it into like another robot.
So
that, like,
artificially, we'll
you know what I mean?
artificially
Like, yeah,
create
like,
humans.
we would still find a way to capitalize on it. Like just because that's how I think humans operate. Like
Well, yeah, you're right. So,
And, like-
so the other generations that hadn't been quote unquote spoiled by whatever this tech thing is, you're
Yeah.
right. They would see that and they'd be like, "Holy shit, we need to do something about this because this batch is pretty much just shot, and we got to start with the next one."
well, I think it'd be that, but like super progressive. Like if we really do degenerate to that point, like it would be over like multiple generations
Of
like
course.
tech improvements. Like
I don't
And then
know,
it
man.
would just again, as I said, like push that investment in improving technology even further. Like
I don't
it
know.
literally would.
I think we're a lot closer than you might think, because if you think about how people already don't want to go to work, like in the next generation coming up, I would say you got even people younger than you guys, like people that are still like either graduating school now.
Us, I don't want to go to work. Yeah, like,
Well, I mean, nobody ever
remote
wants to
works-
go to work,
Remote works
but-
where it's at. Yeah.
But I'm talking about the ones that actually won't go. They just aren't gonna go. Reality has allowed them a way to not go through, and especially with this weird COVID time where, at least in this country, it's definitely not this way in other countries, but in this country, it's pretty easy to just exist. A lot of people live with their parents because their parents are willing for them to live with them. There are people that are being taken care of by other mechanisms. I'm not exactly sure what they all are, but the reality though that you don't have to get a job if you don't want one is pretty prevalent in this next generation coming through, which is scary because I mean, why do you want to go to work now? You want to go to work to pay your rent. Like that's your number one thing, and your car and your cell phone bill, right? You have bills to pay.
Yeah.
But if you don't have bills to pay because it's being taken care of for you, then what motivation do you have to get a job?
Yeah, this reminds me of a question I actually asked you, Sean, in Hawaii. I was like, what if like the world, right, or a society had so much abundance
oh yeah.
that nobody had to do anything,
Right.
right? Like just it's like you don't have to work. Like you said, you don't have to work, and yet you can still thrive. You can still
Right.
survive. What's the
Right.
meaning of your life?
What did we say? I feel like I said something stupid like,
Well,
I
we,
just
we,
hang out.
we, I think what we did was we were like, we compared it to like Brave New World, where like basically humans would just lay around and like maybe take drugs to like seek pleasure,
Oh yeah,
and
I
then
think
just
we
like kind of like just waste away.
So that's what I'm saying. That's
You're
what I'm
fine.
saying. So like, if you have technology enough to spoil a generation, and I don't mean they're just like stuck in VR headsets. Whatever the means are, that they get spoiled at their will to survive is corrupted to a point that I'm not sure. This is a hypothetical thought experiment,
Yeah.
right? Of course. How would that go, and what would that be? And I like the idea that came out of it, like you said, the remaining generations that were older and could recognize it because they came up without all of the spoilage, right? And then they look at it with wisdom and realize this is messed up. Again, like the lead pipe in Rome. At some point, somebody actually it was probably much later that they realized lead was a problem. But let's just say they figured out that lead was part of the problem, that all of these people were drinking this leaded water and were now crazy. Immediately, you get rid of the lead pipes because that is identified as being the problem, right? You would slip into critical mode. But just imagine that. Like if you had a 26-year gap in functional human beings, like not everybody, of course there's always going to be outliers and people who weren't raised like that and whatever, but if a major chunk of our society was left to be, I don't know.
No, I like the more I think about it, I do vaguely agree with you. Like I do think that like eventually, like if you keep like following capitalism's path of like, oh, like tend to your desire first, and you do achieve like production to the point where like, as we said, like you have max abundance, I do think humans will waste away.
Wouldn't you just get into communism though? At that point,
No.
like what would you do?
Like
You
if we
wouldn't
had
do
everything, like
anything. You
everything
had
was
everything,
settled.
like
No,
like,
it-
let's think of hypothetical. AI,
No, yeah.
right? The productivity gains of AI was so crazy that like you don't have to work, and yet you can still like get everything you want. You can get food, you can get shelter. what's your point in existing? I think
No,
people,
humans need that like
It's the
conflict element,
experiences.
they
right?
just experience it.
Yeah, so it'd be like you just keep going up in experiences and like, cause it's like the departure from a good experience is your conflict now, right? So it's like the lack of say like a heroin rush, that's your conflict. Like you need
know-
that conflict element.
No.
So you just keep going up until you're like,
You know what it would be?
what?
That's an extinction level event.
Yeah, like I think
You
humans
no
would
longer
waste
have
away.
the reason to live, then you have no longer a reason to live, and you just expire out of the world. That's it.
Yeah.
And then the technology lives on because it becomes, if it's at the point, which would also presume that it doesn't need humans to do the mining for the lithium, to do the whatever stuff. Like, and that's a pretty long shot, granted, but that I think is the ultimate thing. If you can't, if you catch it too late, assuming, because
But
it could be very well.
It might not, like, traditionally with a gain in resources, like a surplus, populations boom, right? Like that's historically what it's been like.
But that's just like to match the.
bit different now in the past like 20 years, but like yes, fertilizer for example, created in like 1920s.
But imagine
Literally
with every raise in
exponential.
population, like we can optimize the usage of the Earth's resources such that, like no matter how much we raise it, like there's still.
Then
fine.
we'd
Like, we're, like,
probably
in nature.
expand. Like I'm saying, like there's a natural. It's supply
Like
and
to
demand.
space?
Like,
Like, we
but
just keep
it's
expanding?
not. Yeah, but it's not infinite. So like your body runs on sugars, right? It can run on sugars. But if you take too much sugar, then you have to start having processing problems because it's too much sugar, and things
Yeah.
don't function right anymore.
Uh-huh.
So if you have too many resources, there are other. This is what's crazy to me is that like these unintended or not. Well, yeah, they would be unintended because we would be ultimately driving towards this goal of abundance.
Yeah.
And but an unintended consequence could be we have too much. It's just self-generated. We don't need to touch any of it anymore.
But you're saying that
No,
like humans
I'm saying-
historically like
I'm
take
saying
advantage.
that a population would balance that. Like there's, we're not living in a
Or not even-
hypothetical. Like in a world where there's abundance, people would populate, or that's what's traditionally been done for hundreds of thousands of
Or
years.
not even populate, right? Like we create a new tech that can take advantage of the bonus resources, like something that we couldn't do before.
We continuously push our limits. Like, but I think not doing that example, like still like population growth, we'd reach a point where there's more demand balancing it out.
It could be, yeah.
Like it would literally
You know-
equalize until a point where like, oh shit, we have to work again, damn. And then like
Yeah.
we push it
Yeah, yeah.
again, and maybe we'd get to that abundance again. But like, I do.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point you bring up. Is the expanding of any population base allows you to have more of the types of people that you wouldn't have in a smaller base,
Yeah,
right? So like if you have
specialization, yeah.
100 people, maybe one or two of them are musicians, but it doesn't matter because you only have 100 people and you can't survive with two of them being musicians. All 100 of you have to be hunter-gatherers or whatever to survive. And then that expands to 1,000, and out of that 1,000, you got a couple that are inventors that are able to do something crazy, right? And as it's just a numbers game, and the bigger the numbers get, the more of these types of people. And there could be people that would emerge as population grows that are able to do, like you say, solve problems or create new solutions that they just more or less immune to any sort of quote unquote spoilage of the system around you to build those things.
And yeah, I think that's a great point. And like to keep building on that, to say that oh, people have abundance, why would they work? They lose all ambition. Why does Bill Gates still work? Why does Elon Musk still work? There's
Right.
people.
There's
no matter
ambition
what.
outside of financial
Yeah,
gain,
It's,
though.
it's not about them anymore. I feel like it's about
The greater good.
yeah, it's about a greater good. I feel like once you get to a certain level and you
Yeah.
have enough like personal abundance, because like how many pairs of shoes can you wear at one time? How many meals can you eat, right? How many cars can you drive? There's a limit to like what you personally can consume, and if you like have so much abundance that like you have what you want, I think humans will start to seek something beyond the material and something a little bit more spiritual.
I think some will. Like, there's definitely people who become millionaires and just sit
Yeah.
back and coast and don't do anything. Like, I think a large population would just coast.
Yeah.
Just
But my
coast.
point,
Yeah.
no, like literally,
But what
they
would
just
coast
enjoy it.
do? Like what would the
But like, I still
Well, they
think there'd
would
be
try,
there'd
but
be a
they wouldn't.
minority that would push us forward no matter what. Like, and that's been
No, but that's just
proven.
them like searching for fulfillment. Like in this hypothetical world of abundance, you also are perfectly fulfilled.
Sure.
Ah,
But like,
actually,
what's the point of the thought experiment then?
I don't know.
Like the whole point of thought experiment is that like you like without that element of conflict, like a life without no conflict, you have no reason to do anything.
We're
I'm
saying
like-
no conflict, or are we saying abundance?
Actually, no, I think when I say abundance, actually, I don't mean. I'm not assuming that people are fulfilled. I think I'm trying to say, if we have abundance, how will humans find fulfillment?
Okay, I guess like
Like, what is
material
fulfillment?
fulfillment though. Like let's say
Yeah.
there were no problems on Earth to solve, what would Bill Gates do?
Sure, but I think
No,
that
exactly,
stretches
like,
the
you do
thought experiment
nothing.
too far, where it's no longer relevant.
Like it's not. I guess it's like not impossible for production to.
I'm saying
Reach that
bound by
point.
our current
I don't think
reality, and
population
we're
just
stretching one
infinitely
variable
scales.
of resource.
You
That's
said
something we can
population
play
will
with.
just scale infinitely. Like I don't think it will with abundance. Like I don't think.
Well,
Okay,
if
this
you
is-
if
this
you
is going
analyze
back
it a
to
little
the-
more, you could look at it from abundance. So you got the issue of abundance, right? And conflict is the core of a lack of abundance. Or scarcity of resource brings conflict. It all kinds of human to human conflict, human to machine, human to God, human to weather, whatever. You know, all those different concepts in literature. But if you have overabundance of stuff, it would naturally remove a tremendous amount of conflict in the world. Like the things that we fight over now, why would you
most
need
of
to
it,
fight?
yeah.
Because you have so much stuff. And in conflict is is a motivation, but is it the motivation or is it the need, the desire that is there, right? So I could see how in either way, no matter how you perceive it, it's still the same object, right? Too much of a good thing. And what happened? What do we do when we have too much of a good thing? And I bet you're right. It's probably coast. Most of them will coast in this unfortunate depressive state because they won't find the fulfillment that they are biologically wired to succeed on. We have to struggle in order to thrive. And without the struggle, you don't thrive. You just survive.
But
like WALL-E, the fucking movie WALL-E.
but like, people have naturally always found like, oh, I have abundance. What do I do with my life? Oh, I'm gonna look to children to be fulfilled. Like that is such a common thing, and I do think that would be a good filler for a lot.
Children? What do you mean? They look
To have kids. Like I feel fulfilled because I am a parent. I've raised a family.
But I think they're fulfilled because of service to their children, not
Sure.
not the act of having children.
Right.
Sure.
It's like
Sure.
right?
Uh-huh.
But,
So
but I
if
think
you-
that becomes selfless, right?
Right.
When you feel like you have so much abundance, your fulfillment no longer comes from fulfilling your own goals or your own material needs, but to help others fulfill their goals and their material needs.
I don't know. Like what are we trying to say?
I
Like, I
think
feel like we all.
I
basically
think
agree
I
with
think I
fulfillment.
have an opinion actually, which is I think if we have so much abundance, the question of how do people become fulfilled, right, is the question I'm trying to raise. Like what are you fulfilled by if you have no goal and you have no struggle to like. You have no goal and you have nothing to struggle for.
That's
right?
what-
'Cause so many
yeah.
of us are defined by that.
Yeah, I feel like we're talking about a very abstract or maybe like too macro. We're talking like this level. What about individually? Like what makes you guys fulfilled? And
Oh, I
if
like
you
that.
guys had like you don't need a job, but you just get like a 10K allowance each month,
What would you do?
do?
Yeah.
I like that question.
Wait,
Yeah.
one brief thing though. I feel like to what your point is, that's why like in the thought experiment, I think it's relevant that it's material abundance because it's like,
Yeah.
let's say you have every single thing, like, and society has every single thing. Then why do technological innovation? Like, what are you driving towards? Everyone already has what they want. Why go to Mars? Why go to whatever?
I think the premise being in abundance, humanity looks to raising the next generation for fulfillment.
Okay. and
Even
they
like
can,
the
why?
even
Like,
people.
they can do that
It's
already.
human nature.
They can just reproduce, and their kids will
Well,
also
actually,
have.
yeah,
And, but
when
that's perfect. Then it will keep climbing. That's my whole point.
No, but like
is
there's no
that
innovation. Like nothing is produced.
as the population grows, abundance diminishes.
No,
So Andrew,
I don't. Sorry. Go ahead.
let me ask you. You said you didn't want kids, right? So say that you have a startup that's very well established. It pays you very, very well. You don't have to worry about money or any physical things anymore. You can just have whatever you want in life. Would you want kids?
No, like that would be my fulfillment.
So what do you want?
How would you fulfill yourself? Yeah. Well,
Going
In that
forward, like
If you won the coin toss and you got the $1 billion,
well, how would you fulfill?
like I would do a business. Like my premise on like life is, it's given your circumstance, how many people can you help, right?
But like in a world where everyone has what they want, like why do anything? You're not helping anyone.
So you're.
Yes, exactly. He's saying that he wants to help people, and some people want to raise kids to help their kids and teach their kids and like help them, bring service to them. And ultimately, like our existence comes down to, if we have physical abundance, it's about serving other people. It's about how to nurture someone else. It could be a child, it could be other people, like is through
I guess I'm
through
so
an
stuck on Kevin's
organization.
point. Where like it's like, what if everyone has physical abundance?
But
Yeah,
like, okay,
material
wait.
abundance,
Let's just finish this point. 'Cause I think it's good. I do like it. I like
Can't
it.
get away from this point.
No, I like it, Sean. It's just like I think the point is just basic economics. If everyone has
It's basic
abundance,
economics that population growth cannot go on indefinitely.
how? That's
Like there's limited
We've already-
space.
there's not. There's a universe. Me and Sean have debated this at length. Like, we will go to the moon. We will go to Mars. We will leave
We
the
will
solar
not
system.
go to Mars. We will not leave the solar system.
If resources are if resources are abundant, how
Just
can
because
we not do that?
resources are infinite, like even if we had like infinite, like okay, I guess if we had infinite resources.
Thank you.
There's finite resources on Earth.
Oh, so now it's not abundant.
There's
So
Okay,
now
so
we're just
wait,
in a
so-
paradox, and there's
wait a
no
minute.
point in talking
So
about
what
it.
about Star Trek, where you have the replicator? So let's assume we have technology to allow for infinite resources on demand.
We have a way to finitely, to some degree, infinitely recycle energy and like let's say goods on this Earth to like billions of years. But like I think the set number is still high. Like we cannot raise the resource availability that we can generate on Earth to an infinite amount. Like we can recycle it. Like things grow. Like
But
we have
now
energy from the
we're
sun.
leaving the thought experiment of abundance.
I feel
No,
like
you're
we're
the one
talking
that
at a-
talked about
at a
space.
such a high level of abstraction that I'm like starting to lose.
No, we
lose
were
the
going back,
topic at hand. Okay, I actually really like Lena's question. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you like got $10,000 a month, right? And you actually don't have to work.
This guy gets
What would
$10,000
you
a month.
do? Like, what would you do? Sorry, you get $10,000 from the government, right? What is that thing called? A universal
Income.
yeah, universal income, UBI,
Yeah.
universal basic income, right? Let's say like you have universal basic income,
And it was like
and it was enough for you to like live comfortably, eat, right, take care
Well,
of yourself.
here's the problem with that though. Not to cut you off, but the problem is if you put a number on it like 10,000, 10 could always be 20. So there's
Yeah.
always more that you could do. So it has to be more like
But that is
infinite abundance. That
And it's-
there is a total removal of any. You can't top it.
I think the notion of infinite is just too abstract.
It also
I
It
think
is
in
pretty
in this way to
abstract.
talk
It is
about.
really hard to
But
wrap
but
your
what
head
I'm trying to
around.
say is like, okay, fine, 10K, sure. Maybe you get 10K and you're like, I want 20K, right? But that is your own ambition, right? Maybe for you, you want 20K. For me, I think 10K is enough. I'm just gonna coast, right? Or maybe I want 40K.
I think that's a paradox.
Yo, inflation.
So
man.
as long as someone wants 20K a month, then this 10K month balance won't be reached in this world. So basically, humans have to recognize their own desires and also like put other people first, like prioritize other people's needs before themselves and prioritize helping other people and reach this level in order for this level to actually happen. And then we can actually commit to like always serving other people. So it's like the premise is based on the outcome. Set the cycle.
So you think we should prioritize the needs of others before the needs of ourselves, or?
I think we should practice that in order to
That
would
is-
be-
reach the
that
level
is-
of
yeah.
physical abundance.
That is actually probably the most logical. Like if you were to have to just feelings aside, persons aside, just aliens and spaceships watching us do stuff, they would probably agree. If everybody just took care of their neighbor, the way that they would want to be taken care of, kind of a concept, then you would all be taken care of.
We should
Yeah.
become
But there's
socialists.
the free rider
We should actually
problem,
become
right?
socialists.
One bad apple is gonna ruin the whole basket.
That
Yeah,
is
so
true.
that's the
That
That is
problem.
true.
But how can you?
Yo, humans can ascend
That's-
beyond that. That's why we can become socialists. Am I right?
But we did leave the thought experiment of abundance, which is of the infinite abundance.
Again.
And really, what I was trying to get at in the beginning was trying to imagine a situation whereby only one generation of people were corrupted by this, and it wasn't really so much even an overabundance of resource, because I think in a situation like that, not only one generation would become a corrupt, all of them living in that time period would become corrupt because they would have access to all of the same resource. For me, it was more of a question of if the technology fulfilled you. And it's really less of the abundance, and it's really about the emotional gratification, the physical gratification. If you could have a wire stuck in your brain that allowed you to think your body was fine, like even when you were starving to death, you felt full and like you just had a full-on cake and you were like, this is excellent.
Oh, that'd be sick, yeah.
So if you had that and you spoiled a generation that in that way and just twisted their minds up, right? Because this, I guess, really leans in on child psychology. At what point have you trained a child to understand the world around them fully? Like the frontal lobe. Like, is it 26 years? Like, is that the point? And you've just fucked up that human being, and that is just not going to be a productive human being after that? If you pulled them out of that system abruptly, the matrix, you pulled them out of this matrix, which is funny that the movie even says this.
Yeah.
Like, we don't take people out after a certain age because they can't acclimate to the
Yeah.
reality of, hey, guess what? We just live on this fucking gruel and fly around in these spaceships and get killed by machines. So if you pulled them out of that and you're like, no, you got to get a job and go to work and pay your fucking rent, what could they even do it? And if our future relied on them having kids and following, you know, the process to perpetuate the existence of the species, would they even do it? And if they didn't do it, how would we resolve the issue at hand of the humans dying out? Because the older generations are probably getting close to that point of infertility. Like, there would be a massive issue there.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how realistic the Matrix is. Like, your answer would depend on, like, the actual environment in which they're being raised in that,
Yeah.
that setting. So if it's realistic,
And that's what I'm
then
saying.
nothing's
So,
going
like,
to change. But if
so
it's hyper,
today,
like, it's messed up. Then.
So today, the kids that are 5 years old today, and they don't have to leave the confines of their tablet. Like, they're being taken care of. And in my opinion, it's a version of spoilage that is happening to them. Instead of being trained in, you know, lots of social behaviors right now, it's all virtual. And not everybody. I know not everybody. I'm just saying this is a thing that does happen to some kids. And they're being deprived of these important lessons that we don't know how important they actually are, because we've never had a time before that we could deprive kids on massive scales like this, that they themselves are satisfied. They at least seem complacent. They're not screaming, they're not throwing tantrums, they're not wrecking your house. They're fine. They're in front of the TV. Well, yeah, except the TV. That was the fear when TV came
I was
out.
gonna say, like, just look back on history, and it probably answers this in a lot of ways.
To
Like,
a
when
degree,
books,
yeah.
When books came out and people were now studying instead of working with their hands, that was an advantage.
That was definitely an advantage.
Television with broadcasting news and global awareness,
Yes.
an advantage. I think iPads today.
They
probably
have
an
the ability
advantage.
for
I
that,
think
but
an
not,
advantage.
but not when you're 5. When you're 5, you're paying attention to dumb videos like people building on fucking whatever the Roblox
they get
things
familiar
are.
with like control interfaces that are used worldwide now, right?
They are doing that. There's a benefit there. There are certainly tertiary benefits to it, but
I think they're primary. Like the way kids operate computers now are like on a like I'm a software engineer, so I guess like maybe I'm biased.
But
like,
if you had to choose between the lessons you would learn interacting with other kids or doing chores or going and playing a sport, something like that, versus
but they
all of
learn
your
them for a
time.
modern society, right? Like because society is trending in this direction, they learn like these like new skill. Like I guess I don't want to be like anti-progressive, where I'm like, oh, books equals good, iPad equals bad. Like I feel like they're learning these skills because it is optimized for production in a new modern world.
That's true. That is a good point. But we've never done this. This is the part that's
Right, like it
we
is-
don't know
yeah,
if are we
sure.
doing it right? Is this too much? It's like sitting around. Sitting around is good. It's nice to sit around and relax, but you can sit around too much. Sugar is good. Too much sugar is not good. And then you put those two things together, and then you end up with obesity. which is not a good thing. It is where we're trending though, but that doesn't mean it's right. And we should look at things and say we need moderation. We need a little bit of this traditional thing, which is called exercise. And we need to accept the fact that we have this food supply system on the earth that we currently can't sustain all of us unless we do some weird shit like, I don't know, sugar
A
or whatever.
replicator, yeah. I wonder in history, like, you kind of answered the piece of it, but is there a time in history when a technology has been introduced and it was negative for a generation?
I don't think so, because it's the speed at which the technology is produced that I think is the real key here.
Processed food.
Like,
I was thinking cigarettes. Yeah, processed fruit. That's a good example. But all of this is nothing as catastrophic as, I guess, what you're proposing. Like,
Right.
it takes generations of damage. Like, they'll still
Right.
live a long time.
and it's a minor
We
thing
adapt.
in the grand scheme. But
Yeah.
like something that would be so catastrophic as to impact the psychology of a full generation of people. And it you know what I'm talking about now with kids, and you know they're using their tech from basically birth. That's not threatening right now. But look at how technology has grown, you know, one-fold, two-fold, three-fold, four, five. It was only, what, how many years ago? 1909 was the Wright brothers' first air flight?
Yeah, something like that.
Look where we're at now. Holy shit. You know, because before 1909 was all of the rest of human history. And so where could we expect to be in 20 years? Where were we 20 years ago? 20 years ago, we were just having the first iPhone. Like, it's, I mean, Google didn't even exist. Or, I'm sorry, Google existed. YouTube did not exist.
Yeah.
So, and that's, again, if you just keep accelerating up at that curve, it's possible that we may end up producing a technology that is very damaging to
Yeah,
an
I
entire
agree with that, yeah.
generation, and we don't know it because it's brand spanking new. We have not been able to test to know what the limits of these things that, because yes, it will trend in the direction of progress, but to what end is so scary to me. Fuck.
Yeah, like I guess the straight up Matrix, right? Like that
Yeah.
would be devastating.
Yeah.
That would probably end humanity. Like you can have like a fake wife, fake kids in the Matrix. Everything's
sick.
like
And that's, yeah, so that's what I mean. Like with that gratification where AI is essentially taking the role of all of the stuff that's in your life that just allows you to believe anything that you want. What reason is there to do anything? And if anyone tried to pull you out of that, it would reduce your quality of life so significantly, you would become hostile and irate. I mean, I don't think there's any ambition in any person that could equate like that dopamine kick you get when you're like, you got the success that you worked for 5 years to get. You finally got it. I don't think that even holds a candle to infinite whatever. I mean, it's okay. So it's not abundance like we were discussing of a physical resource, but it would definitely be an abundance of a perceived happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I agree.
Scary stuff, man. And especially in the context of Neuralink.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's wild. Well, I have a small bladder, so I'm going to be going to the bathroom again. I'm glad that's on here.
Good talk though. Good talk. And Sean's over here. He's like, no, I can't talk. I'm too quiet.
no, I'm just no. I don't know. I guess like one thing about that too is like even in the Matrix, right? Like when the guy, remember the scene where the guy's like eating the steak, and the guy asks like, oh, like why isn't everyone just like living life like perfectly or something? Like why don't we just give them everything they want? And then the guy said something like, it's something like how even like humans actually can't operate that way. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't productive for them to just like create a matrix where everyone could get everything they wanted. Like
Yeah.
you had to give it to them in moderation.
And the human brain couldn't accept it was perfect.
Exactly. Yeah.
It needed it to be
Yeah.
a struggle,
Yeah.
which is true.
Visionaries, man. They were visionaries when they came up with that. The Matrix. My God. So good. I was gonna ask if you guys think we'll go like beyond our solar system, but I feel like Andrew needs to be here. We talk about that a lot.
Do you guys?
Yeah, like I'm a pessimist. Like I don't ever think we even like I think like we
Whatever.
maybe we get to Mars. I think maybe humankind lasts long enough to like maybe make a colony there vaguely. I don't think we ever escape our solar system. And I think
I'd never say never. I don't know. I feel like the word "never" is the one that I'm hung up on.
okay, sure, never. Not
But why? But the
Yeah, but
question
why,
is
yeah.
why.
why I think to a degree there's like a limited amount of innovation you can make. I think there's a limited amount of resources on Earth that you can actually consume. I think like there's a hypothetical like stepping stone per like every time we go to moon, right, we have to hit a certain stepping stone for innovation. Every time we go to Mars, we hit a stepping stone for innovation. Like and we have to do these major bounds in innovation. I think at one point the innovation runs out. I think at one point like the amount of innovation you need to hit the next step, like the tech doesn't exist for it. I think at some point like the resources doesn't exist for it, the tech doesn't exist for it, and we're stuck. Like maybe it plays out where like each step gives you enough resources to get to the next step. I think that's like wishful thinking. Like we've had the steps to go to the moon. We've had the innovation and tech steps to get something on Mars. I don't think we have the innovation and tech steps necessary to go beyond Mars. That's what
but you admit Mars now.
Now,
Finally.
I never admitted. I said like we'll get like we could feasibly land a human.
There we
Do I
go.
think we'll build a colony?
3 days ago, he said no.
I never said no. I always said it was possible. I just like it's like I would say no.
I wonder like when
I gotta pee,
when
too.
like
But you
Henry
can see
Ford
your
built the Model
arguments.
T. I wonder if like people around the world were like, wow, you know, the car just came out. Do you ever think we'll make it to Mars? And then
I can argue Sean's point. Sean's point to this is those are relatively trivial in the grand scheme of innovation. So like creating a boat, that doesn't take much brain power. Creating a hyperdrive teleporter to actually go the speed of light, that is much more complex. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm personally in the side
are
of.
you speaking for Sean right now?
Yep.
This is Sean.
Okay,
I've-
this
I-
is Sean
This
speaking.
is Sean
This is
speaking.
Sean speaking. We've debated this at length, and that's what he would say.
Alright. Okay.
So I'm just curious what your thoughts are to that.
Well, I can speak to it immediately, and I would say that is probably true. But as we were just talking, as I was just trying to say about how technology like multiplies on itself, you know, it's true. It doesn't take much to build a boat, but it takes much more to navigate. You know, to understand math concepts, to be able to triangulate, to understand what is even happening out there. That's like thinking outside of the box in a way that hadn't happened before. Like think about it. Did you ever see that movie? Shit, I can't remember the name of it. It was basically a movie about cave people, and this one cave girl learned, like she just realized you could count. And so she was showing, you know, like with rocks, like look, 1, 2,
That's
3,
funny, yeah.
and look, watch this. You take 2 of them away, and the cave mother's like, oh my God, you can't show anybody this. This is like, you can't do this. Like that is when no one ever thought about it. Like that's a simple thing. That's just simple math, but not to them. To them, that was an enormous breakthrough that happened like that. And the same thing could happen in theory with stuff that we currently have no idea about with, you know, as they talk about UFOs, like with how they supposedly use some sort of basically pole.
Yeah, tractor beam. Yeah.
Well, not the tractor beam, but like when you bend space-time.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that kind of stuff may well exist that we could somehow or another harness, possibly. And if that realization is hit, like if we figure out this whole thing about sustained nuclear fusion reactions, then we could have an unlimited energy source, which would open the door then to a lot of other research that we don't currently have the ability to
I've
do.
argued the nuclear fusion point a lot to him.
Nuclear fusion doesn't just mean that you can like even if you improve the amount of energy we had, like it's the propulsion technology, like.
Yeah, but actually, I was thinking, and Ryan, I appreciate you sharing the rock example. That was good. I was thinking, Sean, because I gave them your counterpoint to most of this. So
Like which counterpoint?
Building a ship is primitive. Like those are easy steps. What
No, it's
happens
not easy.
next?
Like do you agree that innovation is limited? Like there's a finite number of combinations on Earth to attempt.
Of
it's
all
an interesting
innovations?
it's an interesting idea, but like I was gonna say, for hundreds of thousands and millions of years, we have proven time. There hasn't been a single time where we haven't proven that innovation works. So for you to say, raise your hand and say, hey, after all of these experiments, innovation won't work, is almost crazy.
No, like I will say that I'm probably short-sighted in how far we get, but like you agree that there are like finite combinations, and you do like it's been in recent times that we've been able to exponentially scale up the amount of combinations that we can actually try.
But like
and,
finite, there's finite combinations of, like, no, I don't agree with that.
No, there's many things on Earth I think we can still accomplish. Like extending the human lifespan, for example, using like whatever editing, I think is feasible. Like there's a lot of weird science I believe in, but I'm saying that like in particular to like exiting the solar system, like generating enough energy to do that, having the propulsion technology to do it in a reasonable time, and like coming together as a society like long enough to create that project, I just think is so unlikely.
Yeah, I think that's a better point. Like society eliminating themselves before we get to that point.
I don't even know how many like years like I think our current society will like subsist. Like to actually exit the solar system. We haven't even like we haven't even done anything with the moon yet, and that's like proven and trivial. Not trivial, but like it's just leaps and bounds. Like when I do think like we in recent times like have made a ton of discoveries, there hasn't been like the Kondrativ waves, right? Like waves of innovation. They've been happening consistently in like modern society for like every like 50, 60 years. Like when was the last one? Like it's starting to slow down. Like there's like we aren't discovering like
we're literally in the current one.
Like what is it? AI? Like that
Yeah.
doesn't like that, but that's not an energy innovation, right? Like that's like an application.
Oh, you're saying those are innovations for energy?
Yeah, like steam, industrial revolution.
We're
like
literally
metal,
in like an electric vehicle revolution. Like
they're
batteries.
just applications
Yeah,
of like.
I was gonna say that's not a revolution. Or, no, it is a revolution.
Storing energy
but
has been.
It's not a new thing that was.
I would argue that solid state lithium and like storing energy.
Solid state lithium was dude. I believe we can improve things on Earth. I don't think we're like, but like going to like out of the solar system. Like we can improve things crazily on Earth. Like it's just like that to me is the stretch.
But it sounds like you're saying it's less about your faith. It's less about your lack of faith in humanity's ability to innovate, but it's more about your suspicion in our ability to enlighten ourselves, to preserve ourselves.
Yeah.
Like because your argument is saying, I think that humanity will not subsist long enough for us to exit the solar system, which means you're saying that there could potentially be a day that we exit the solar system if we could stay alive long enough.
I think like vaguely both though. Where like I also don't like, yeah, like I think that's the big one for me. Like I don't think humans last long enough to do that.
But one side you're talking about innovation, right? But the other side is more about preservation of our you're skeptical that we will even survive to see a new millennium.
Well, even the innovation, like I don't know that the innovation portion, like yeah, like that one is maybe weaker. Like do I believe there's some like obscure set of steps in discovery where like maybe we find a way to exit the solar system? Like yeah, like it could exist. But like what I think is more unlikely is like the human cooperative development where like we actually come together as a society and get out of the solar
So you don't
system.
believe in humanity.
So it's a preservation conversation.
Yeah, not humanity's ingenious and imagination. You
like
believe
0 to
in
1%
humanity.
basically. Like zero, I think 0% we get out, 1% like with the innovation exists. I don't know.
I mean that's a different question you're posing. It's not an innovation question. It's a.
No, I'm definitely being short-sighted. Like I'm sure like there's some element of like science that I don't understand where like maybe we could do it, but like look, we've been on the moon, like we haven't done anything with that. Like the idea that we could like confidently go to.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like we need a reason to leave. I think that's the only thing. If there's a reason to leave.
Yeah, because there was a reason to go to the moon. And
Yeah.
then we did it,
To
and
prove
then we
that
were
we
like,
could.
It was
"Ha-ha."
to prove the Russians that we.
That was
we
literally
could,
the
yeah.
only reason, and that's why we didn't go back.
There's
Yeah,
no.
that's
like
true.
we did
There's
Yeah.
nothing from it, right? Other than
you.
like bragging rights on an international stage.
That's basically it. Yeah.
That's true.
Like sending even like the trivial drone that we sent to touch the early edge of our solar system, like, and that was like compared to sending even a human is like it's way less complex. 300 years, 40,000 to get out of the solar system for something so trivial.
Yeah, you know, it's
Like
true
it's
too. Like
borderline a rock. Sorry.
If like, what motivation do we have to leave the solar system at all? Why would we leave a perfectly habitable planet to go into nothingness? Like, we don't even. Let's say, for example, 4 light years away, there was a habitable planet, and we knew it, and they were sending us radio signals, and we knew there was life there, and they basically Morse coded us and
That'd
said,
be
"Hey,
crazy.
shit's great here. Like, Taco Bell's on every corner." If we wanted to, then, do you think that we would find the
We
will
would
to go?
race to do that. So Carl Sagan wrote a bunch of books on this. So the crazy thing is, there could be a society that has seen us, perceived us, and has sent a message. They did this 80 years ago.
Right.
And any second, we could receive that message, which is just weird. Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah, I
think
think about that too.
Like, it's
any
on its
second
way right
aliens
now.
could show
potentially,
up.
yeah, they sent it 80 years ago, and it could be here.
Even an alien, straight up.
Yeah.
Spaceship shows up,
Yeah, it's
changes Earth
they've perceived
completely.
us. Now, we would do that because if we were to actually interact with a society that was even 5% smarter than us, it would exponentially push us forward in innovation. Like, just the amount of things we could trade and learn from
Oh,
each
yeah.
other would just be.
Yep.
So, like, if as soon as humanity discovers like a non, I guess like a living conscious signal, I think we'd throw every single thing into that.
It might fucking destroy our society, though. The implications, like, I was listening to a story, might have been a podcast actually, about UFOs, the UFO stuff lately, and one of the theories that why the government may not want to tell you that this is the reality, if that does exist, and it's because society might collapse because of the fragile framework that supports it, which is religion. And religion doesn't talk about aliens on other planets.
Oh, that's interesting.
And if that was real, and what would people think then? If God doesn't exist, if this starts questioning people's core value sets, they may well implode, and it wouldn't take much to.
Religion's done a really good job of adapting over
Yeah.
thousands of years, especially now. Like, they're adapting like crazy. Like, oh wait, we said gay people weren't allowed, but yeah, they're allowed now. Like, people are forgiving when it comes to dealing with the unknown.
Yeah,
and they're
God
willing to
made
accept
aliens
anything.
is a
So I
short
think
story.
religion would be
You
very
may be,
cunning.
You might be right in the.
they're
in-
incentivized to
You
have
might be
people's
you might
interest.
be right about that in North America, but I don't know if that's true everywhere in the world.
I still think very quickly, like it wouldn't be a leap to be like, God also made aliens
Yeah.
and accept that.
Yeah, I don't think that's an interesting. I like the idea
good- yeah,
of
it's a good
religion
idea.
unfolding, but like even now we're in a less religious society.
But even even if it's not specifically religion and Yahweh is not real, just people's understanding of the world around them and
Yeah, it
how
would be
they would
crazy.
perceive it. Or like, what if it was the technology? Or I'm sorry, not the technology. What if the species was extremely advanced? Like, basically, as we are to monkeys, they are to us.
Yeah.
Now we're not the top of
That'd
the
be
food
so
chain.
scary.
They can just come snatch us up out of this boat right now, and no one would ever know.
But they would have done that. Is the
They may
argument.
be doing that.
Yeah, and the
We
government
don't know.
hiding, and the government hiding it wouldn't. They, yeah.
No,
there'd be
what
Well,
if we're
they would
what if
only
we're just,
hide
like,
it
one
to
Earth-
keep people from freaking out, because they can't do anything about it. And when you realize that you are not top dog anymore, that may be a problem. But just the idea, that,
Yeah.
that's the fun part
Yeah,
of
it's
thinking about
interesting.
what could the reason be why they wouldn't want to tell us, beyond just national security tech stuff.
Maybe they're just watching us. Like we're just one Earth out of like millions in their zoo that they just like spectate.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing, yeah, the funny thing that Carl Sagan wrote about is like currently like our fastest signal of a conscious Earth is, unless they have incredible light telescopes, which we don't have. No, like the thing that's actually the best way to survey the universe is radio waves. Right, that's how we do it. It's just way more efficient, and we've been sending radio waves out for 80 years.
Yep.
So if a country was an alien species was listening, they heard World War II, they heard terrorist attacks and warfare and like all of this terrible stuff that humans have been polluting space with. Like we are brighter in a radio wave telescope than the sun is because of how much radio waves we produce. And that's what aliens will see is like those channels we're sending out, and that's really interesting too.
So we may well have beaconed them in.
Yeah.
Because if you think about that, the alien sightings were supposedly coming in. When did they do that gong thing? That was definitely before World War II.
What's the gong thing?
It was like it was the very first radio signal they put into space, and they made essentially this big, huge gong, and I think it had a trumpet on it or something. It was like a really rudimentary setup, and they did like these 3 tones or something, and just shot it out into space. That was the very first time that we were able to send an amplified signal off of the Earth.
Interesting.
But I think that was in, I want to say it was like 1919 or thereabouts vicinity, which was, I mean, it wasn't intelligent beyond the fact that
Yeah.
there's 3 distinct tones.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But,
That's fine.
oh man, just,
Well, do we want to do how do we wrap these up here?
let me just stop.
Oh, there's no, you don't do the sponsors.
No,
you don't
I gotta
do
work on the format.
Yeah.
It's just, we stop it like we started it. Just
Thank
like-
you, listeners.
Yeah, thank you, listeners.
Come stay on Andromeda. Come stay on Andromeda.
Andromeda 2.
Andromeda 2.
Don't stay on Andromeda. That is.
Well, this is
That is
this is actually MV Andromeda, motor vessel Andromeda. That is SV, sailing vessel Andromeda.
Oh.
There we
So,
go.
I didn't have to put a 2 on it because it's actually, you know, the name of the boat is, you know, like some boat you say the. This one it's just Andromeda, like a name.
There we go. Some canon knowledge for the fan base.
Bye.